Let's go! The official BSB Partner Series. This is FAB-Racing.
Hello and welcome to Cumbria Kart Circuit in Rowrah, right up at the top end of England. You're joining myself, Gareth Hall, and Trystan Finocciaro for round 6 of the FAB-Racing Mini Bike British Championships. Set to be a fantastic weekend's racing here up at Rowrah, where we're going to see the likes of the MetroKit, the MKGP 50s, the 70s, of course the mini motos, the likes of the AC40 Pros, rookies and those LC40 Elite Class bikes, and of course the adults will be out on circuit on the senior mini motos, along with the Pit Bike 140s, the Extreme 200s and the Moto Team class. Trystan, we're here up at Rowrah. It's a long way up north. How are you finding the circuit so far after the few hours we've been here?
I mean, it was definitely a big drive, but you know, it's a fantastic circuit, fantastic to be here. I remember even back when I was racing, we always looked forward to this one, and it was always wet and windy back then, and it's wet and windy again today. But Gareth is still in shorts.
Still in shorts, as always. But a very wet and slightly miserable day here up in Cumbria, but very, very nice circuit, very beautiful area, and yeah, should be a fantastic weekend's racing here at FAB. We'll just have a look quickly as we just look over our shoulders here to the circuit, Trystan. Are there any particular corners that you've got your eye on? We've already tried to find out and pick out any particular places that might be good for overtaking. What have you seen so far?
Well, I think we're definitely going to see some passing opportunities up the far end of the circuit. You've got the 2 hairpins at the top, but all the corners around here look real nice, real flowing, and it's definitely going to make for some great racing. But I think those 2 hairpins we're going to see a lot of action, and a lot of last corner action like we've seen already today.
Absolutely so, and we'll take a quick walk through the paddock, and we'll have a look at what's going on here at FAB this weekend. And one of the classes that has been particularly strong so far this season has been that AC40 Pro class, and one of the riders that's done particularly well has been Archie O'Brien. And Archie started off the season very strongly indeed, and we're expecting really good things for him for the rest of the season. And he's had a very strong Ella Park. But Archie, tell us, how did Ella Park go for you? Really good race?
The Ella Park went really well, but in the pros we struggled a bit with the engine, but we got it back on Sunday and still got a 4th, a 6th and a 4th. But the race I got 6th, I was running 3rd, and then I crashed out and managed to get 6th. But in the LCs I had 2 seconds and a 1st, which we was pretty pleased with.
And how's the season gone in a whole for you? Because you've been right up there, you've been fighting for podiums almost every race. So how's the season gone for you so far?
The season's gone really well. It's just been a bit of a learning year, like I said in the last interview. We've just sort of exceeded expectations. We just thought top 6 in both classes would be really good, but obviously podiums and even wins are just phenomenal.
And moving on after this season, what have you got your eye on for 2021?
We're still going to do pros and LCs, but hopefully win both the titles. And then the year after that, probably MetroKit 50s, and then 70s probably, and then hopefully British Talent Cup and on from there.
Well, yeah, hopefully so, and hopefully we'll see you in BSB in maybe 10 or so years. So good luck for this weekend. Really looking forward to seeing what you can do out on circuit. Archie O'Brien, who we will see out on circuit very, very shortly, and a rider that's done very well so far.
Yeah, it really impressed me this year. I mean, you heard him then, he's so mature, and he's done really well. Picked up that first win back at Ella Park, and he's been knocking on the door of it for a while now, and I think he's a name you expect to see coming up through the ranks for sure. He's definitely got a mature head on those little shoulders.
Has indeed. And what else have we got coming up this weekend? Well, we've got the likes of course, we just spoke to Archie O'Brien there, who will be part of the mini motos, the AC40 Pros and the LC40 Elites on those mini moto bikes and the 40cc engines. However, we've got the likes of the MKGP 50s and GP70s. So explain to us what those MetroKits are like.
Well, so the Metro kits will be essentially the next step for all the young riders. Like Archie O'Brien that we've seen, they'll be coming up through the mini moto ranks. Then their next step will be these Metro kit GP50s and Metro kit GP70s. They're essentially they're the first shout of a gearbox bike. They're very small, 50cc or 70cc gearbox bikes, 6-speed box. And that's their first chance of getting used to a gearbox bike, getting used to a bike that's a little bit bigger, engine braking, changing gears and all that stuff that they need to be learning. That's their first time that they're going to see that, and we're going to see that in action this weekend. And it's also made for some brilliant racing. We've seen some championship battles in both classes, in the 50s between Ronnie Harris and Ethan Sparks, and equally in the 70s is really hotting up really nicely between Garnett and Brown.
Yeah, of course, Johnny Garnett, who's made his debut in the British Talent Cup very, very recently. He's completed 2 rounds now and had a very successful Silverstone for Johnny Garnett, and we'll be looking out for him in that MKGP 70s, as you say, up against Lucas Brown. That championship battle really starting to heat up, and it's going to be a fascinating run to the end of the season. Of course, that's not just the thing with the youngsters out on circuit. We've also got the senior mini motos, and that's a championship that's looking like it's going in the way of Bernie Hook. However, Holly Harris has come into the championship. She's been very strong indeed, and of course we've got the likes of Matt Birkin, Josh Birkin. They're staying in this battle, and so the senior mini moto is giving us as much entertainment as everyone else.
Absolutely. I mean, that championship, I wouldn't say it's the most open championship at the moment. You've got Bernie Hook absolutely flying at the front of it, and he's got a mammoth gap at the front, and that's been helped a little bit by the absence of some riders at some circuits. But also one thing we're seeing this weekend that we haven't seen before is all the dads of the junior riders are going to be hopping on mini motos this weekend, having to go in the senior mini moto race in an organised dads race, which is going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah, cannot wait for that one. It's we've already seen them out in practice, and a couple of wobbles here and there and a couple of falls, so stay tuned for what is set to be a brilliant senior mini moto weekend here. And of course, it's also pit bikes, 140s, moto teams, and the Extreme 200s, the bigger bikes, which might go slightly better in these conditions, as you can see, as we're getting blown around the paddock.
Yeah, absolutely so. I mean, the bigger bikes will be a bit sturdier, and a bit sturdier than we are standing out here in the cold and rain as well. So yeah, absolutely. We're going to see. It's going to be tough out there for all the riders. We've seen a few crashes already today, and they're all going to be hoping that this weather's going to get a bit better for them as the weekend goes on in all classes. But like you say, the bigger class is probably a little bit easier to maintain these conditions than the smaller mini motos.
Of course, FAB-Racing is the road to MotoGP. It's the official partner to the British Superbikes. Many of our riders promote themselves up into the British Talent Cup, up into the likes of Stock 300, Stock 600, like Trystan himself. And so it's a brilliant place for these youngsters to come hone their craft. We see a lot of British Talent Cup riders come back down to FAB, and equally some even BSB riders coming down and showing off their skills. The likes of Storm Stacey, Brad Ray have competed in events so far. So it's a really good place here, FAB, to come and make sure that you're keeping on top of your action before you head out on the bigger tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's brilliant to see is they don't forget where they've come from. They come back to FAB-Racing, which is such a brilliant place to start off your career. They come back and absolutely enjoy themselves. We've seen Scott Redding in FAB-Racing in the past, like you say, Charlie Nesbitt. And Charlie Nesbitt says he comes to help the kids a lot as well, which is brilliant to see. So all these riders that have grown in this environment are now coming back and helping out the younger ones. So it's brilliant to see, and and they also come out and you see some really exciting racing with them as well.
Yeah, so the likes of the pit bike 140s, which Charlie Nesbitt has been doing exceptionally well in so far this season, will be one to watch out for later this weekend. And as you say, it's FAB-Racing has got this beautiful community spirit. We spoke to the likes of Jamie King in 2 weeks ago when we were at Ella Park, and he was saying a lot of the reason why he turns up is that he just gets to it's the social event. It's the competition, of course, but he equally likes it. He comes here, chills out with his mates, and has fun out on circuit. So it's great to see FAB promotes that real family community spirit. We see everyone in the paddock getting on really well, everyone on circuit helping each other out, whether it be issues between bikes that are just lead pieces and bits and pieces being handed out just to make sure that those bikes are running out on circuit. So it's a really good place for if you want to make that step towards MotoGP, towards BSB, to start off in FAB.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a real community, isn't it? It's like a big family, FAB Racing. Everyone's here helping each other out, and everyone knows each other. And it's like the names such as Jamie King that have been here for a very long time. He's just looking at us now, so we just see if we can go have a word with him now. But it's brilliant to see how much everyone's helping each other out in this paddock, and how much of a big family it is.
Yeah, and it's been brilliant to see. And like I said, it's been. It's just a lot of fun this season so far. It's been so condensed, and I think everyone's just kind of helping each other out. Teamwork has been supreme throughout the field, and it's been a condensed season, which meant that everyone has had to work really hard. And one of those riders that is working hard right now is Jamie King. Jay,
I literally started raining as I turned out, so it must have known, mustn't it?
Clearly.
Yeah, we went out on intermediates that session. That was a bit of a bad decision, but we're now swapping over to full wets. I don't think it's going to rain for the rest of the weekend, but we're going to go out there and have a bit of fun in the wet.
We spoke back in Ella Park, and you said you tend to like it when it's out there and it's a little bit wet. So.
It's going to be about getting 3 good results today, because Charlie's not here this weekend and he's leading the championship. So get 3 good results this weekend. Hopefully, we take championship lead.
Yeah, and exactly, it's you've got to take the opportunities when it comes. No, Charlie. Rowrah, or Cumbria Kart Circuit, how have you found it? You've obviously been up here a couple of times before, so what's the track like?
It's one of my favourites. Going from that 15-minute drive last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, now it took me 6.5 hours to get to this one, so total opposite ends of the spectrum. But I wouldn't travel all this way if it weren't a brilliant track, and this is one of my favourites.
And going back to the starting of your bike career, so let us know what got you into racing, what got you into on 2 wheels?
My dad said when I was really little, I think I was about 8 years old, he said to me, do you want to go bike racing? He's always followed British Superbikes, World Superbikes, MotoGP, and I started riding when I was 8, mini motos. Way back then, Roger and Robert weren't involved then, but I did race mini motos when Roger and Robert did take over the championship, so I've known Roger and Robert since the start. I went and did big bikes for a little while, realised I wasn't good enough, crashed quite a bit, but I still had the bug, so I came back to do this for a bit of fun.
And obviously you're our resident Blue Blur Sonic, of course, and you've got it hidden, I see, underneath that the hat. But for the rest of the season, of course, we've got Red Lodge coming up, and then we're finishing off the season at Clandale. So what's your expectations the rest of the season? We know that Charlie might be back for the next two, so obviously, as you say, you've got to get the results in this weekend. Yeah,
Red Lodge is another local one for me. It only takes me an hour to get to there, so I've never won at Red Lodge, though, so I would like to kind of get that off my back. I've had loads and loads of seconds there, but I've never won, so I'd like to win at Red Lodge and Landau. It's not one of my favourites, but we'll still enjoy it. It's another long trip for me, but I do like Landau. It's all right.
Well, good luck this weekend. It's going to be good to see what you can do with that out on circuit. And Trystan, just of course, Jamie King, we said he's part of that big community spirit here at FAB, and whilst we stand here getting progressively more damp, just give us a final wrap up what we're expecting to see from racing, and what are you looking forward to?
Looking forward to all classes. You've managed to pit bike 140 class with Jamie King in that we've just spoken to. That's going to be really exciting. It's championship lead is not going to be here this weekend, so there's going to be some points being racked up in that one. But I have to say, what I'm really looking forward to this weekend is that championship battle at the moment in the Premier class for the juniors between Gareth and Lucas Brown. Lucas Brown is really turning up the heat in the championship now and really putting the pressure on Gareth. Gareth had an injury earlier in the season. He's come back. He's also pushing hard over in British Talent Cup. We should give a shout out to that because he picked up 7th place in British Talent Cup last weekend, which is brilliant to see. But obviously this weekend now he's completely focused on that MKGP70 title and who's going to get that. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens this weekend. It could be a very big weekend in terms of the championship, and equally in the 50s between Ronnie Harris and and Ethan Sparks. So it's going to be a brilliant weekend's racing, and myself, Gareth Hall, and Trystan Finocciaro will be bringing you wall-to-wall action here from Rowrah up at Cumbria Kart Circuit, and we hopefully slightly warmer and slightly drier in the commentary box, but do join us for that. Set to be a brilliant weekend's racing up here up north, and enjoy the weekend. FAB-Racing Mini Bike British Championship. Hello and welcome back to Sunday afternoon here at round 6 for the FAB-Racing Minibike British Championships. We're up here in Cumbria at the Rowrah kart circuit. Myself, Trystan, Finocciaro and Gareth will be bringing you all of the action for all of the third races of the weekend for all of the classes. We've had plenty of action so far this weekend. Some brilliant championship battles in the likes of the GP50s, the GP70s. We've had the Moto team having their only going out in by themselves without pit bike 140s. A few less BSB names this weekend, which means we can just focus on the real FAB Racing riders here at the Mini Bike British Championships.
Yeah, very, very much so, and much drier and warmer compared to Fridays, as you just saw. So, yeah, it's very nice being up in the commentary box. But, yeah, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you've had a nice break and you're here joining us for this weekend's afternoon session. And, yeah, so it is the FAB Racing Mini Bike British Championship, the 6th round of the season, as Trystan said, up here from our end. What is FAB Racing?
FAB Racing is literally where where young riders start their careers. Also, there's a few adult classes here as well. So this is where all the young riders will start off their careers in rider classes like the mini moto classes. The AC40 rookies is where they'll do their first season of racing, then move up into the pros, the LC40 elites, then move up onto the gear bikes, the MetroKit GP50s, MetroKit GP70s, and then that springboards them up into BSB classes such as the British Talent Cup and up and all out into so many different classes. We've seen so many different names coming through this championship, such as Scott Redding, we've talked about so often, Danny Kent, Charlie Nesbitt, who comes back to help as well. So it's brilliant to see that this form has been working for so long. It's been working since 2004, springboarding riders up into British talent, up into all the classes over in the motorcycle racing world, and it's the homing ground essentially for junior riders.
Yeah, and that is the reason why they come here, and we're already blasting through this very, very short condensed season. Round 6 we are already at, with 2 more to go after this. Red Lodge in 2 weeks time, and then South Wales for the final race of the season at Llandow. So it's not long to go throughout this very, very short season, and we've had everyone not really taking much of a break, because a lot of these riders, if they've not been at FAB, they've been at the BSB paddock. So you could imagine by the end of the season everyone's just going to relax, because it's been a long summer.
Yeah, absolutely. With this little condensed season that we have this year, due to everything that's going on in the world, obviously we've got every 2 weeks is a FAB Racing meeting, and then a lot of the riders and a lot of this paddock has also got commitments over in the BSB paddock, and so they're going to be a lot of riders are going to be riding here this weekend, then riding at BSB next weekend, and it sort of goes back to back like that. Even myself, I'm riding over at BSB next weekend and then commentating again the week after. So it's an action-packed year this year, and we've got plenty of riders on all sorts in the paddock that have split commitments here at FAB and over at BSB.
Yeah, and one of those riders that is looking at making the move into the BSB paddock in the next few years will be Alfie Davidson, who currently runs in the MKGP 70 class, and I had the chance to speak to Alfie on Friday. Gareth Hall here, speaking with Alfie Davidson, race winner so far this season. So Alfie, how's the season going for you so far?
Yeah, it's going good. I won last time out, and yeah, I broke my wrist at the start of the season though, so I missed the first 2 rounds, so I'm not really doing so well in the championship.
Looking forward, just a couple of rounds left to go, 2 after this. So what's the goal for you for the rest of the season? Maybe a couple more wins, getting up there on the podium?
Yeah, maybe some more wins and yeah, stuff like that, podiums.
And what got you into racing? What started you off on 2 wheels when you were younger?
I can't really remember. I think my dad just likes motorbikes and went to the Isle of Man, then he bought me a mini moto, and then it just went from here.
And out on circuit, have you found yourself racing with anyone in particular? Who do you enjoy going out and going wheel to wheel with?
I like going out with Lucas, Harrison and Mason. They're good to battle with, and Johnny. And yeah.
And we've seen the likes of Lucas Brown versus Johnny Garness, and Johnny back from the Talent Cup. What are you expecting to see from that battle this weekend?
Hopefully I can stay with them two and battle with them. But yeah.
Well, good luck this weekend. Good to see what you do, and hopefully you can pick up some more wins out there on the circuit.
And it's been brilliant to see Alfie Davidson progressing this year, obviously picking up a win last time out at Ella Park, like he just said, and picking up some podiums as well this weekend. And he's going to be looking to pick up one more later on in the MKGP 70 race. Race 3 for them will be coming up later on, so make sure to stay tuned and watch that one, because that's going to be an exciting one. Also with a championship battle going on in that one between Lucas Brown and Johnny Garness. But looking from the Premier Class to the AC40 rookies, riders starting off their careers on these air-cooled 40cc mini moto machines. And one rider that's been doing really well in this class at the moment is Oliver Hull, who we're just looking at now, as well as Harrison Day, who's just been unstoppable this weekend, Gareth.
Yeah, very, very much so. Oliver Hull, who has had a brilliant weekend at Ella Park at 2 weeks ago. He will be looking at going one better this time. He's had to, unfortunately, he hasn't really been able to stick with Harrison Day, who's had some blistering pace. But as you say, this is very much the first step for these young riders in their way on the way to BSB and to the effectively up to MotoGP. They want to be the next British talent. But if you just joined us for the afternoon session, thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Gareth Hall, joined as always by Trystan Finocciaro. We'll be bringing you all of the afternoon session here from round 6 of the FAB-Racing Mini Bike British Championship, and it's the AC40 rookies up first, and Harrison Day, who picked up a brilliant pole position, a second faster than Oliver Hull in second place, with Lewis Hull back in third. Two-time podium sitter this weekend, Travis Shaw in fourth, with Callum Maxwell in fifth, Chloe Sewell in sixth position, and Zach Speed Pennegar back in seventh. We're going to try and coin that nickname for him. He's a really lovely lad to speak to in the paddock, and he's desperate out there to get a good result. And we saw him have a good first start to the second race, and fell back a little bit later, but he's definitely got the pace there to challenge.
Yeah, absolutely so. Zach Pennegar, we spoke to him earlier in the weekend. We also spoke to him back at Ella Park, and he explained to us that he's looking to achieve speed this weekend on that AC40 rookie machine. So and he's been brilliant to watch as well. He had a good battle last time out, last race earlier on today with Chloe Sewell, and that was a brilliant battle that was brewed further back in that race. Chloe Sewell getting the better of Zach Pennegar in the end in that one, and it was a brilliant result as well for Chloe Sewell earlier on in this one. But plenty of names to look out for, as well as the number 111 of Callum Maxwell, also in his first season of racing this year. But it's your pole man, Harrison Day, lining up on pole position. Of course, son of Josh Day, who was the 2019 Ducati Tri-Options champion and looking to defend that title this year. But now his focus, you can just see him there helping out his son on pole position, and his focus this weekend is on Harrison and what Harrison can do this weekend. Will he be able to make it 3 from 3, or will Oliver Hull be able to get his own way in this one? You have to say Harrison Day looks as the favourite going into this one, but anything can happen in the racing as they look to the lights. The lights are on and now the lights are off, and they're going down to the first corner for the final time this weekend for the AC40 rookies. Down to the first corner, everyone away nice and cleanly. You can see Callum Maxwell in there, also Zach Speed Pennegar in there as well. Harrison Day, though, with a brilliant lead at the moment, already eking out a bit of a gap over Oliver Hall, and they've only done 3 corners so far, using all the track on the exit. There is Harrison Day as they go down into Iredale's hairpin for the first time for race 3 for the AC40 rookies. Also another brilliant start there from Travis Shaw on the number 4 machine. He's now up into third spot, so a brilliant start there from Travis Shaw from 4th up to 3rd. We saw him picking up podiums earlier in this weekend as well, but Oliver Hall it was, who's been working so hard to get onto that podium and now is just consistently on it.
Yeah, he is, and he is closing in on Harrison Day, but Harrison has been very strong so far this weekend, and very much checked out in the opening 2 races, so I'm sure Oliver will be desperately trying to hold on to him, but yeah, it's going to be a hard task, you've got to think, if you are Oliver Hall. He was, we've seen, as you said, he's been working very hard with his dad, M4 Karting, to pick up his pace, and he's really been showing it over the last few races. He had his best weekend of the season back at Ella Park, and 2 podiums already so far this weekend. He'd like to go one better, but if you're going to be on the podium, you might as well do it in all 3 races.
Yeah, absolutely so. He's once he got that first one, the rest came like London buses, and he's just been racking up those podiums and racking up the points in this AC40 Rookies Cup. Of course, once these riders reach 234 points, they are then obliged to move up into the AC40 Pro category, which is the next step for these riders, and it's a brilliant formula that works really well, because this AC40 Rookie category, they're all the same, they're all in the same boat, they're all in their first season of racing, and they're all trying to compete against each other. They're learning as they're going on, but they can also compete for solid results and not having to worry about competing against riders that have a little bit more experience. The likes of Ethan Sparks that we see in the AC40 Pro category that have been around doing this for a couple of seasons now, second in the championship last year. But this means that they can learn and then look to progress up into the AC40 Pro category. And we've seen riders do that, such as Byron Johnson, Philly Polehill, who unfortunately suffered from a broken collarbone this weekend. Byron Johnson's move up to there, and these riders will be looking to do that as well. And you've got to think the next person to be able to do that is your current race leader, Harrison Day.
Yeah, who has already started this race in exactly the same fashion that we saw him do the opening two. He's already built himself a 5.6 second advantage, just a few laps done already, and Harrison on the 15 machine looking very, very well placed to once again pick up a good result. Travis Shaw hadn't finished on the podium until this season. He's already picked up 2, gets a slightly slower exit out of the first hairpin there at McRae's, but down towards Ardales, and we'll see if Travis can hold on to this one. His dad was using the bike to be part of the senior mini-moto dad's race that we'll see later on this afternoon, but Travis very much one-upping his dad and getting on the podium consistently.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure Travis Shaw will be just comparing his lap times to his dad's and just bloating a little bit to Danny Shaw, who was riding in the senior mini motos earlier on. But it's brilliant to see the dads out there having fun, but now their focus is on the young ones. Harrison Day, who's out the front of this one, flying away at the front once again. This is a sight we're used to seeing this weekend. He's just been such a dominant force, and he's really in a good place to be picking up 3 wins from 3 this weekend, with 5 laps to go in the final race for the AC40 rookies. So Harrison Day is the lead now by almost 9 seconds it was across the line, and with 5 laps to go, you're going to have to think that he is the favourite to be picking up this 3rd win so far this weekend. Oliver Hall in another lonely second place at the moment. He's got a good gap over Travis Shaw, so we're seeing a few gaps in this field, but Oliver Hall doing really well to cling on to that one. That's going to be 3 second places from 3 if he can keep it like this, and he's in a very good place to do it. But Harrison Day, 3 seconds a lap quicker than anyone else.
Yeah, he is, and just really blitzing this field is Harrison Day, and doing a stellar job out there on that AC40 rookie bike. And so for those that maybe haven't seen these rookie classes before, what is the benefit, because these young riders as young as 6 years old starting their career, what is the benefit for the likes of Harrison Day, who's really on his own at the moment? Is it just track time, getting used to the tracks, getting used to perhaps riding off camber corners, uphill, downhill? Of course, this track here has everything. It's got hairpins, it's got fast rights, it's got fast lefts. What's the benefit for Harrison being out there on his own?
Well, they're at the point in their careers at the moment where every single thing they're going to be doing is they're going to be learning from it. This is going to be they're going to be up against new challenges all the time, because it's obviously their first season of racing. So Harrison Day, he's now had 2 races of experience of leading at the front, so he knows what it's like now to pull away at the front and put down a solid rhythm at the front faster than anyone else. And that's something he's learning as he's going on. He's learning as he's doing it. And another rider that's learning as he's going on and learning to get that speed that he's looking for is Mr. Speed himself, Zach Pennegar, on the number 134, fighting with Chloe Sewell at the moment. This is the battle for 6th place. We saw these two battling away earlier on, and it was Chloe Sewell that got the better of Speed Pennegar earlier on, but we can see if Zach can get one on Chloe Sewell in this one, and it's going to be an interesting battle between these two. And it's brilliant to see all through this field, they're all learning, they're all having battles with each other, they're learning their racecraft, they're learning their lines, and they're learning a completely different new circuit here at Rowrah.
Yeah, of course, this is all new to these young riders that are on all these circuits for the first time this season. And as you say, they earn a certain amount of points before they head up to the AC40 Pros, which we've already seen the likes of Austin and Byron Johnson, and equally Finny Poho. Of course, we do send our best wishes to for his recovery from a broken collarbone that he suffered in practice on Friday, and he will, I'm sure, be absolutely gutted that he's not being able to attend the AC40 Pros this weekend. But Chloe Sewell closing in on Speed Pennegar and trying to look to the outside, and we've noticed this about the rookies before and the pros on the mini bikes, is they tend to explore the track, don't they, to try and find those opportunities to pass. And it's really good to see these young riders using their initiative, not taking the same line and just following each other. Yeah,
absolutely so. They do really well. I'm really impressed at how mature the racing actually is in the AC40 rookie class. Of course, they're still learning out absolutely everything about this sport in the early days, and looking for every way around. You can see Chloe Sewell all over the back wheel of Zach Pennegar and trying to get through on him in every way possible. But at the moment, one rider that's doing really well in his first season of racing is Harrison Day out the front, leading by some way. The number 15 bike, the the bright orange bike of Harrison Day out front. Harrison McKay we'll see later on this weekend. But Zach Pennegar now just pulling away from Chloe Saul. So Speed Pennegar just pulling away from the number 101 now, and might have this 6th place in the bag. But we can just see here now Harrison Day coming around to lap these guys. So Harrison Day on a pace that's absolutely superior to anyone else with 2 laps to go in this AC40 rookie race. You can just see he looks so confident around this Rowrah circuit. He's really got his lines nailed to perfection, and looks really good on that little air-cooled 40cc mini motor. Of course, all these riders running the same 40cc air-cooled Blatter engine to keep everything fair and everything equal for these riders in their first season of racing. And it provides us with great racing, and it provides a perfect platform for these riders to start off their careers, start learning, and keep progressing with their careers and with their racing. But now we're on to the final lap for the AC40 rookies.
Yeah, as Harrison Day comes around to lap Chloe Saul and Speed Pennegar, who are currently in 6th and 7th position. He's just going to go to the inside, and hopefully Chloe will just take a quick glance over her shoulder just to see the leader is coming through. Just about gets caught out by Zach Pennegar, who will very much be focusing on his own race. He won't want to get caught by Chloe Saul, but up the inside does go Harrison Day, and Harrison has been absolutely brilliant this weekend, and the young rider on the 15 machine has just been a head and shoulders ahead of everyone else, on a different planet to the rest of the riders in this rookie class. And you can see a 20-second advantage over Oliver Hall, and I think this is the biggest gap he's had so far this weekend as they come around the final few corners. Harrison Day has had a brilliant weekend. He's going to enter his name into the short list of riders this season that have picked up a hat-trick of wins over the weekend. He's going to round the final corner, and Harrison Day coming to the line, 3 from the 15, arm up in the air. Harrison Day is your race winner here in the AC40 rookie class. Around comes Zach Pennegar. He finishes ahead of Chloe Saul, a lap down. It's going to be Oliver Hall and Travis Shaw, if all goes to plan, on the podium, with Oliver Hall picking up a 3rd consecutive 2nd place finish. So once again, Oliver will be delighted, and he'll be picking up the podiums that he was desperately craving earlier on in this season. Travis Shaw, equally, he hadn't been on the podium until this weekend. Well, he's got 3 of them, so I'm sure Travis will be leaving West Cumbria absolutely delighted.
Yeah, absolutely so. He's got all the points that he could ask for, and we will expect to see him moving up to the AC40 Pros very shortly indeed, because he is definitely proving he has what it takes to make that step up. So what an exciting moment for the number 15 of Harrison Day, racking up the points and getting closer and closer to that AC40 Pro Championship that will be next in his sights. And we've seen riders move up from this category into there and do very well indeed. The likes of Byron Johnson, Austin Johnson, Finley Polehill, who unfortunately hasn't actually been able to, only got 3 laps in the AC40 Pro Championship after crashing out and breaking his collarbone. So we wish him all the best as the season goes on. We're not quite sure if we're going to see him again this season, but we wish him all the best. Hope he gets well soon, and we'll hope to see him back next year.
Very much so. But welcome everyone for the afternoon session here from Rowrah Kart Circuit, or this West Cumbria Kart Circuit up in Rowrah in the Lake District, and it is a beautiful part of the world, and it is if you do get a chance to come here to the circuit, I do implore you do give it a go. And whether you're in the paddock or if you're watching at home or listening, of course, on motorsport.radio, have a very lovely Sunday afternoon. I'm sure if you're the likes of Harrison Day, who's got a long ride, or I say ride, it's probably a drive now for him, he'll get a chance to put his feet up all the way back down to Cirencester in Gloucestershire, and you can see everyone just in the paddock just enjoying the day. It's been, luckily the rain has abated. We've not seen the rain that we saw on Friday, so it's kept on everyone slightly happier.
Yeah, absolutely so. I mean, you saw in that paddock walk we did earlier on how soaked we got on Friday, and it was really miserable conditions on the Friday here, but nice and dry for the moment here on Sunday for these race 3s for all of these classes. And moving up from the AC40 rookies, the next step is going to be that AC40 Pro Championship that we were talking about. And look at them now, they're heading on to the grid to start their final race of the weekend. We've seen Ethan Sparks take a win this weekend, Archie Gibbs take a win this weekend? Who's it going to be this time?
Well, you know, it's always a great fight between Ethan Sparks and Archie Gibbs. Ethan Sparks had a slow start in race 2, and he got stuck behind the likes of Thorley Trevorrow and Marco Holt, as well. So that is what allowed Archie Gibbs to stretch out a huge advantage. But it is very much as Archie Gibbs takes a quick glance over to Ethan Sparks. Ethan very much focused on his own race there. Archie, I'm sure, will want to be leaving with a 2-1 victory over Ethan Sparks, but Ethan Sparks with a huge advantage in this championship. He equally takes pole position for this one, ahead of Archie Gibbs in second, Josh Williams back in third, with Thorley Trevorrow in fourth, Archie O'Brien, who we've already seen take 2 wins in the LC40 Elites, who will be up later in 5th place, with Marco Holt in 6th, Bill Harris in 7th, with Luke Fitchett in 8th. Row 5 is the Johnson brothers of Byron and Austin in 9th and 10th, and Noah Guillory rounding out the grid on row 6 in 11th position. Now, we've seen Ethan very, very strong in race 1. Maybe not the pace that we saw yesterday from him this morning, but you've got to think that he's definitely the favourite for this one.
Absolutely so. I mean, Ethan Sparks was absolutely flying yesterday and flew away from everyone else, but Archie Gibbs managed to fly away from everyone else earlier on, so we may very well see a battle for this race 3 victory here at Rowrah. But it's definitely going, the championship anyway, is going in the way of Ethan Sparks. He's got a gigantic lead in this championship, and he's going to be looking to extend that even further. But the second place man in the championship is Archie Gibbs there. You can see in second place on the number 3 bike, and he's going to be looking to try and take some points away from the number 62 of Ethan Sparks. And now their attention will be going to the lights for the final race for the AC40 Pros. The lights are on, they're getting ready to get underway, and there they are away, and it was a good start there from Archie Gibbs, who gets side by side with Ethan Sparks, but Ethan Sparks has the inside line. Archie Gibbs tries to go around the outside and up the inside into turn 2. Brilliant move there from Archie Gibbs, absolutely determined to take that whole shot, and did a brilliant job of it. You can also see the number 91 of Archie O'Brien just making moves in the background there, but it's Archie Gibbs who's leading this one, and Joshua Williams now up into 3rd place, so that's a real change of fortune for Josh Williams. He did qualify on 3rd, so he was 3rd on the grid, and he's holding that one very well, but that's a problem for the number 3. That's a technical problem for Archie Gibbs. I think he's going to be out of this race. He looks absolutely frustrated there with that one, so terrible start to the final race of the day. His dad runs over, see if they can get that bike restarted and back into this race and figure out what the problem is, but really unlucky. They can see they're desperately trying to get that bike up and restarted. It was a brilliant start for Archie Gibbs, but that's not how he would have wanted to end the race.
No, and that's what we've seen from Archie so far this season. He's just had this really good pace, but just bike issues have just hindered him, and he'll be so gutted with that, because he knew that a second chance at a win this weekend was on the cards. Archie O'Brien, is coming across the line very much neck and neck with Thorley Trevorrow, and you can see Archie just with the upper hand. Gets onto the curbs and very much unsettles the back end of that bike, but manages to hold on to it. But up at the front, Ethan Sparks is going quickly. However, it's the rider behind, Josh Williams on the 78, that is really starting to put the pressure on. This is much better from what Josh Williams. This is Josh Williams that we saw in the early stages of this season.
Yeah, absolutely. So Josh Williams enjoying a really good race so far. Of course, still 8 laps to go in this race, but he was fastest on that first lap off of the line. So he's definitely looking good in this one, and right on the back wheel of Ethan Sparks. So Josh Williams back in the form that we're used to seeing him back at the beginning of this season. Archie O'Brien with a brilliant move down there, getting up into 3rd place ahead of Marco Holt. So a battle for 3rd place brewing really nicely as well, as Archie O'Brien leads Marco Holt and Thorley Trevorrow, and there is Archie Gibbs looking on from the sidelines. Unfortunately, they can't get that bike restarted and back into this race. They're a lap behind now, so Ethan Sparks it is who is leading this race from Joshua Williams. What can Josh Williams do about Ethan Sparks? I'm sure Josh Williams will be delighted to see himself back onto the podium, but he's going to be thinking about that win.
Yeah, he will, and but the championship lead is now very much gone in the favour of Ethan Sparks, who can potentially, if Archie Gibbs cannot pick any points up this weekend or this race, will be looking at closing it out next time out at Red Lodge. Archie O'Brien ahead of Thorley Trevorrow, who's got ahead of Marco Holt, so Marco dropping down 2 positions in the last 2 laps, but Archie O'Brien, who you've got to think will be buoyed speed after his results so far in the LC40 Elites. Isn't maybe as fast in this Pro class, which is surprising to see.
Yeah, absolutely so. I mean, they are two they're very similar bikes, those to the AC40 Pros and the LC40 Elites. But of course, the LC40 Elites with a lot more power with those liquid-cooled engines. So Archie O'Brien perhaps just favouring more power and a more powerful bike, and it just seems to suit his riding style a little bit better. As we see, he's absolutely flying in that class. But of course, still really quick in this one as well, battling for podium positions, but not quite able to match the pace of Ethan Sparks and Joshua Williams out the front. But really happy to see Joshua Williams back up at the front of the race, as we're used to seeing. Also battles all through this field with the number 27 there of Austin Johnson running a Blatter now, not what we're used to seeing him. So on a different bike for this race is Austin Johnson, so perhaps had some problems with his bike and has been lent a little Blatter to be playing around on in this one. So Austin Johnson, number 27, just leading Bill Harris. That's the battle for 7th and 8th currently going on. Is the brother Byron Johnson a little bit further up the road in 6th. So of course Byron and Austin, two riders who have recently come up into this AC40 Pro Championship, having graduated from the AC40 Rookie Cup, of course. But Ethan Sparks flying out the front, and this battle for 3rd really hotting up now. Look at Thorley Trevorrow now up into 3rd place, just ahead of Archie O'Brien, and Marco Holt also looking really menacing just behind the number 91 of Archie O'Brien. So it could be any of these guys that take this 3rd place in this race, but it's Ethan Sparks who set the fastest lap of the race on that last lap, edging out the lead at the front by 0.7 of a second. 0.7 of a second he has over Joshua Williams. But these guys, there's nothing in it for this battle for 3rd. They're all locked together and absolutely giving it everything to try and pick up this final position on the podium.
Yep, 3rd place on offer for these 3 riders, with Ethan Sparks 0.7 of a second faster than Josh Williams, who's having a much better race, currently going with the race leader. Thorley just about holds onto position. Archie O'Brien trying to find an opening that we've seen him make, and in fact he's going to try and sweep to the inside, going to the final corner. They're almost 3 wide as they enter the final corner. Archie O'Brien finds his way back up into 3rd place. We've got 4 laps left to go in this one, and it's Ethan Sparks who once again goes purple, a 56.525. That puts him a second and a half faster than Josh Williams. So Ethan Sparks very much putting the afterburners on now and starting to build that gap, and he's very much in the chance of wrapping up the title in Red Lodge 2 weeks' time. However, Josh Williams is going with him, and Josh will be looking at picking up a first podium in a while. Much better from Josh in this one. However, Ethan Sparks, who of course runs that 62 bike in both the MKGP 50s and the AC40 Pros, is very much using it to great effect this weekend, and he's been really strong. He may not have had the greatest of second races here in the Pro class earlier on, but he's very much been the rider in form this weekend. And once again he comes around the final corner to start. 3 laps left to go, and he's just setting consistent lap times that are within a couple of tenths of a second of each other. So it's very much just consistently getting to the end, and the battle for 3rd is changed once again as Thorley Trevorrow goes back up ahead of Archie O'Brien. So this is still going on as Marco Holt looks to go to the outside of Archie O'Brien as they go down towards McRae's hairpin, and it's going to go almost 3 wide on exit, and Archie O'Brien now back up into 3rd position, but Thorley comes back at him up the inside, and they've been trading positions lap for lap. This could go anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see these riders all really clever, little bits of racecraft going on here, and they're just swapping and changing positions. Real nice, clean racing as well, which is brilliant to see from all of these riders. Marco Holt at the back of this battle for 3rd. Just watching these guys swapping positions at the moment, just keeping it cool at the moment and waiting for his moment to pounce as Archie O'Brien moves back ahead of Thorley Trevorrow up into 3rd place. Down into the final corner once more, you can see Archie O'Brien defending that inside line, making sure there's no way through for the number 42 of Thorley Trevorrow, but Trevorrow getting a brilliant drive out that final corner and makes another move down into turn 1 as they start the penultimate lap of this AC40 Pro race. Brilliant racing from these 3 at the front. It's Ethan Sparks who leads by 3 seconds, and Josh Williams in a lonely 2nd place. He'll be happy to pick up a podium after having a little bit of a difficult mid-season, but Archie O'Brien with his hand up there, so perhaps some sort of problem there for Archie O'Brien. We'll have to wait and see how that one pans out, but something that he seemed to be frustrated with there for the number 91 machine. He's just sort of nodding his head, trying to get a bit more pace out of that AC40 Pro bike. It looks as if Thorley Trevorrow is just pulling away a little bit now, so Archie's going to have to get his head down and get back onto the rear wheel of the number 42 of Thorley Trevorrow. Marco Holt still at the back of this group, eyeing up Archie O'Brien at the moment, seeing where he can try and find a way through on the number 91. He gets a brilliant drive out of there. This is the number 91 of Archie O'Brien. Has a look to the inside, but there's no way through on Thorley Trevorrow as they go on to start the final lap of this race. It's Ethan Sparks who's leading by a commanding gap at the front. 4 seconds he has over Josh Williams. A brilliant second place so far for Josh Williams, really enjoying himself in a podium position, but Ethan Sparks is the man of the day.
Yeah, he really is, and he's really controlled this race. He came under threat from Josh Williams, but has just been stretching that lead out and out and out. The battle for third is going to rage to the line with Thorley Trevorrow and Archie O'Brien and Marco Holt all still battling over third, but the man of the moment is very much the 62 of Ethan Sparks, who comes into the final few corners of this one into Sunny Bend at turn 8, and he just has to navigate one more turn after this to pick up his second win in class this weekend and the overall win on the weekend. Ethan Sparks to the line, checkered flag for him. That's 2 wins from 3. That is a massive lead in the championship. Brilliant result for Josh Williams. He comes home in second place. Who's going to get the jump to the right line? It's going to be Thorley Trevorrow to the line, just ahead of Archie O'Brien and Marco Holt. Thorley very much was not willing to give up that third position. Archie O'Brien just didn't have quite the pace in the late stages to close in on Thorley, but it is Ethan Sparks once again, who we've seen so often on the top step of the podium here in the pro classes. Side by side comes Austin Johnson and Bill Harris, and Noah Giddy will be last on the leading lap. Unfortunately, we lost Archie Gibbs and Luke Fitchett from that one. But yeah, what a race once again from Ethan Sparks. He will be delighted, gives a wave to the camera, and the young rider on the 62 will be very, very happy indeed as he goes to Red Lodge with a commanding lead in the championship. He finishes at the top of the field ahead of Josh Williams and Thorley Trevorrow in third position. Archie O'Brien in fourth with Marco Holt fifth. Then come the Austin brothers with Byron getting the better of Austin in sixth and seventh. Bill Harris in eighth with Noah Guillory in ninth position, and unfortunately we lost Archie Gibbs and Luke Fitchett from your final race classifications. And thus ends the AC40s for the day. However, a few of them might be out in the LC40 Elite, so watch out for that. They'll be coming up later on. However, next out on circuit is the Pit Bike 140s and the few Extreme 200s.
Couple, I think, is
yes,
the word.
very much, just two of them, and one of them is the 43 of Ryan Hitchcock, who's taken the 2 race wins so far this weekend and subsequently the championship lead in the Extreme 200. So yeah, this is a race that we always look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can see there the number 43 of Ryan Hitchcock, very much the favourite going into this race on that Extreme 200 machine. Definitely an advantage on the Extreme 200. He's on a KTM 85cc machine there, motocross bike converted into a mini supermoto for these karting tracks, and very much the superior machine compared to the pit bikes. Will be better in a straight line, better in the corners, and will stop a little bit better than these pit bikes as well. So definitely on with an advantage on that bike, and you'll expect to see him just clearing away. And that's Taylor Lawrence down already before he even gets away. A little bit of a grid incident there for Taylor Lawrence. Got to get his bike restarted. Not what he would have wanted getting onto the grid there at all. Really unfortunate there for Taylor Lawrence.
Yes.
And it looks as if he can't get it started now as well, so possibly disaster here for Taylor Lawrence. Not the way he wanted to start this race. Looks as if Rossi Banham's coming on to try and give him a hand. Marshall picks up the bike there. Rossi Banham getting Taylor Lawrence's bike started for him there. One kick is all it took for Rossi Banham to get that bike started. He knows how to start a pit bike as he goes back onto the grid. So drama at the beginning of this run. So hopefully Taylor Lawrence is going to just need to calm down, get that out of his head, and start this race. But it's Ryan Hitchcock then who is going to be on your pole position, and also pole position for the Extreme 200s, of course, with 2 classes in this race. So there is Ryan Hitchcock on pole position ahead of Taylor Lawrence. Pole position for the Pit Bike 140s, but second on your grid, ahead of Rossi Banham and Jamie King, your championship leader, in 4th. Callum Beach, British Talent Cup rider, in 5th, ahead of Darren Anderson in 6th place on the grid. Reece Reece Peacock in 7th, ahead of Jack Andrews in 8th. Howard Taylor in 9th place, and that's your second place in the Extreme 200s out of 2. And that's Sean Whittaker down in 10th spot on this grid. Matthew Lindley will line up in 11th, ahead of William Birkin, who won't actually be riding this weekend as after maintaining a broken arm earlier on this season. Ben O'Keefe will be in 13th spot, ahead of Aston Dean. Roger Monks in 15th, Elliot Crosby in 16th, Harrison O'Keefe in 17th, with Frankie Carton down in 18th, Gary O'Keefe in 19th, and Callum Foster down in 20th spot on the grid. So an absolutely packed grid here for the Pit Bike 140 and moto teams. We're used to seeing a packed grid for the Pit Bike 140s, but throw in a couple of extra Extreme 200s and we have 20 riders on this Pit Bike 140 and Extreme 200 grid here for race 3 at Rowrah, the final race of the weekend for the Pit Bike 140s and the Extreme 200s. It's gone in the way of Ryan Hitchcock 2 times in a row for the Extreme 200s, but it's Jamie King who's been taken that championship lead overnight as they look to the lights for the final time this weekend. A few riders creeping off the line, but they're off to a good start, and that's Ryan Hitchcock who's stopped on the line, has caught a few riders out. Rossi Banham is furious. Callum Beach needs to get his bike restarted and back into this race, so that looks as if the number 43 of Ryan Hitchcock has stalled it off the line and needs to get that bike restarted, so he won't be taking, or he could very well catch these guys and carve through the field, but disaster for Callum Beach, so that could have been a really nasty incident, Gareth.
Yeah, it really could. So luckily they didn't have too many people that saw it or that managed to get caught up in it. That was 1st, 3rd and 5th. Everyone on the right side of the grid from the 1st to the 3rd rows caught up in that. Just unfortunately Ryan Hitchcock unable to get off the line, but drama at the start, and that allowed Taylor Lawrence, and even after he had that slight mishap off the start or in the before the formation lap, but he's managed to get up into lead. Jamie King promoted into 2nd. Jamie, however, was creeping off the line, so we'll have to find out as Rossi Banham starts to carve his way through the field, and we know that Rossi is a very quick rider, in fact just taking a little bit of an inside line and catching one of the other riders unaware there, but yeah, you're going to think if you're Rossi, he's going to probably have seeing red after that, and he'll be wanting to charge back up to the head of this field.
Yes, of course, and when we say Rossi, we of course mean the number 196 of Rossi Banham, not Valentino Rossi, riding out here in the Pit Bike 140s. He's just carving through this field. He's determined to get back onto the front of this race. He's signalling to Taylor Lawrence on the other side of the circuit, just arm up in the air. Can't believe what happened at the start of this race, but just need to get your head down now, Rossi Banham, and just get through this field. It's going to be really interesting to see how quickly he manages to get through this field. Already up into 6th place in this race after losing all that time at the beginning, and he's got his eyes set now on Sean Whittaker and Reece Peacock, who are just ahead, and he's just flying through this field. Look at so much confidence on that Pit Bike 140. Of course, rider over in Junior Supersport, riding a Yamaha R3 for the WAM team over in BSB. Around the outside, he tries to go over Reece Peacock, and they're all side by side, and Rossi Banham 2 in 1 as he goes down into the first corner. So that's Rossi Banham now up into 4th place in this race. A brilliant move there from Rossi Banham. He knows how to battle it out. Of course, Junior Supersport, if you've been watching any of the Junior Supersport races this year, absolutely exciting action there with almost 10 to 14 bikes battling for the lead in that race. So Rossi Banham not shy of making moves at all, and he's got his hand down trying to get as slipstream as possible. Also, you can see there Ryan Hitchcock carving his way through the field as well with that little extra bit of power. He's not far behind Rossi Banham at all. He's also now ahead of Reece Peacock and Darren Anderson as well. So not Darren Anderson, sorry, Sean Whittaker. He's now ahead of me. There is Rossi Banham absolutely flying through this field, using every inch of tarmac that he can and more. Brilliant lines being shown by the number 96 of Rossi Banham. Of course, not shy of using all the track and more, having been riding a 300 is exactly what he needs to be doing out of BSB, and that's what he's doing here at FAB-Racing here as well, and just using all the travel in that rear shock as well. You could just see him, you could just see it absolutely compressing as he went through the first set of corners, but now Ryan Hitchcock is right on his rear wheel.
Yeah, and he's going to see Ryan Hitchcock, I'd imagine, go past him very, very quickly, and Rossi, who was involved in that incident with Ryan Hitchcock off the line, in fact bouncing up and down as Ryan goes past with that extra power in that Extreme 200, and Rossi won't have to worry about him. He's just going to have to try and follow him and close in on Jamie King, who's just up the road ahead, and Jamie, of course, championship leader in the Pit Bike 140s. He's going to want to just be picking up points. We talked to him Friday and he said he just needs to be picking up consistent points with a lack of Charlie Nesbitt this weekend, and around the inside goes Ryan Hitchcock. Will he get the drive off the final corner? He does. So Ryan Hitchcock now back up into a net second in this one, with Taylor Lawrence leading, I believe, but Ryan Hitchcock back even after, was that about a 30-second head start for everyone else? He now finds himself up ahead of Jamie King.
Right, it just goes to show what a brilliant rider Ryan Hitchcock is. It also just goes to show how much of an advantage he has on that bike, as Rossi Banham now takes the lead of the Pit Bike 140 race. But this is the leader of the race overall. Ryan Hitchcock already celebrating that he's managed to get through the whole field with 8 laps to go, already pretty much going around on one wheel around this Rowrah circuit, as we've seen from him all weekend. He seems to be really enjoying himself out there on the Extreme 200, with Banham leading the Pit Bike 140 race, as we said earlier on. But the number 76 of Jamie King doing all he can to try and stick with Rossi Banham as he tries to make his way up and through these riders. But Taylor Lawrence at the moment down in 18th in this race, so perhaps some problems for the number 10.
Yeah, we'll have to find out what happens with Taylor Lawrence, if that's just a timing issue or if he is down in 18th position. However, Rossi Banham is the one on fire as he comes up to Taylor Lawrence. So that is the lead that's just been changed between Ryan Hitchcock and Taylor Lawrence. So Taylor Lawrence is now having to watch Ryan Hitchcock pull a wheelie down the back straight as they go down towards the turn 6 Stewart corner. And there's Jamie King, who's of course championship leader, leaving this weekend with a lack of Charlie Nesbitt. Jamie's done exactly what he said he was going to do, is just pick up some regular points and get back to the head of this field. And Jamie doing a brilliant job so far of just picking up and being consistent. Taylor Lawrence, however, with that bike issue in race 2, is able to get back on the pace and running around at the head of this one. But Ryan Hitchcock back at the front after such a big gap, so it shows you the advantage that Extreme 200 has over the pit bikes. And usually we see the pit bike 140s out with a moto team, so yeah, I'm sure a lot of these pit bike 140s aren't used to being overtaken as much as they are.
Yeah, absolutely so. I mean, they're not used to seeing a bike like this flying through the field, but almost as quickly as we've seen Charlie Nesbitt and Rossi Banham flying through the field. But like you said, with this Extreme 200, Ryan Hitchcock is just able to ride circles around the rest of the field. But Taylor Lawrence, the number 10, is leading the pit bike 140s ahead of Rossi Banham and Jamie King. We just had our timing screens corrected now, so it is Taylor Lawrence who is leading that pit bike 140 race, with Rossi Banham in second and Jamie King in third. Jamie King racking up points in the championship with no Charlie Nesbitt here this weekend. Charlie Nesbitt led the championship going into this weekend, but now without him being here and with Jamie King racking up the points, racking up the podiums, he's now taken that championship lead and is looking to extend it in this race as well. But Taylor Lawrence also picking up loads of points this weekend, running at the front. He said back just before Ella Park, he got a new engine in that bike, and one with a little bit more power, was struggling with straight line speed before Ella Park, but now with that new bike underneath him, he's now absolutely flying at the front of this pit bike 140 category, and is really showing that he has what it takes to be at the front of the pit bike 140s. And it's a shame that we didn't see him battling right from the beginning of the championship, because he could have been a real championship contender in this pit bike 140 category. But you just see there number 43, Ryan Hitchcock, British Talent Cup rider, of course, 9th in the championship over at British Talent Cup, picked up 7th place in the British Talent Cup last time out at Silverstone, and doing a brilliant job here on the Extreme 200s with 4 laps to go in this pit bike 140 and Extreme 200 race. You can see Rossi Banham doing all he can, setting a the fastest man on track on that last lap as well, trying to bring down the Taylor Lawrence, and he's about a second a lap quicker than Taylor Lawrence at the moment. So Rossi Banham could very well see himself catching Taylor Lawrence with only 1.2 seconds behind him.
Yeah, it looks as though Rossi Banham is going to get himself right in the battle for this pit bike 140 class win in the late stages with 3.5 laps left to go. It's going to be Ryan Hitchcock, if all things go to plan, to make it 3 from 3 in that Extreme 200s and the overall race win. And he managed to get back after that bike issue off the line, which saw both Ryan Hitchcock, Rossi Banham and Callum Beach all struggle to get the bikes going and having to restart them. However, Taylor Lawrence was the beneficiary. He got up in ahead, but has been reeled back in by Ryan Hitchcock. He is currently just around a 3/4 of a second ahead of Rossi Banham. So Rossi's starting to put the pressure on as we go on to 3 laps left to go in this one. Jamie King comes across the line in 3rd place in the pit bike 140 class. Darren Anderson and Reece Peacock will be coming around in 5th and 6th position, and Reece Peacock and Jack Andrews have been almost glued together at the hip, the 29 and the 14. They were the ones that are involved in that slightly heart in mouth moment with Ryan Hitchcock when he went to pass them earlier on. But that is the 20 or the 14, I believe, of Jack Andrews, who's out there on circuit and following. Oh, that's Elliot Crosby, the 92 that he's circulating around with. But as we come on to around about just over 2 laps left to go for Ryan Hitchcock, as he gets ready to finish up his weekend in exactly the style and the fashion that he was hoping for, and that's with 3 top step finishes. And he is currently, after starting almost about 30 seconds behind anyone else with that issue, now 6.5 seconds ahead of Taylor Lawrence, who's doing a brilliant job so far of holding off Rusty Banham, which across the line was 58 thousandths of a second. So is Rossi Banham within touching distance? Yes, he is. 2 laps left to go. Can Rossi get past Taylor Lawrence? It's going to be the 10 versus the 196, and Rossi Banham is going to want to get back on and get the race win in the class. The 12 of Sean Whittaker is with Matt Lindley and Elliot Crosby, and they are battling over 8th and 9th position, with the second Extreme 200s as wide and out goes, and that allows Ryan Hitchcock a free pass on 2 of these lap traffic bikes as they go up into the final corner, and onto the final lap goes Ryan Hitchcock. And Hitchcock has even overcome adversity, got back on the pace, straight back into the lead. This one has just enjoyed himself out on circuit. Maybe not as much showboating in this one. He had a little bit of work to do.
Absolutely so, but just passed 2 riders on the exit of that corner and did it on 1 wheel. So pretty impressive stuff from the number 43 of Ryan Hitchcock. Of course, like we've said, British Talent Cup rider, and getting his wheelie practice in this weekend. So once he gets some podiums over in the British Talent Cup, he'll be ready to wheelie to celebrate over there, and he's definitely doing a good job here in the Extreme 200s. But the battle for the pit bike 140s is really brewing now, because Rossi Banham has made his way through on Taylor Lawrence. So Rossi Banham is now into the lead of this pit bike 140 race. Will Taylor Lawrence be able to snap back at him? They're setting pretty similar lap times, but this is the final lap of the race for these guys, and that is number 43 Ryan Hitchcock takes the win. An impressive win there from Ryan Hitchcock. But who's going to win the pit bike 140s? Will it be Rossi Banham? It is Rossi Banham that wheelies across the line, taking the 3rd race win of the race win for race 3 of this weekend for Rossi Banham. Taylor Lawrence there in 2nd place, but 3rd overall, and Jamie King will come across the line 4th bike in this race, but 3rd in the pit bike 140. So a brilliant battle in the pit bike 140s between Rossi Banham and Taylor Lawrence. Banham starting after that mishap at the beginning of this race. But there it is. Hitchcock won the Extreme 200s. Banham won the pit bike 140s, but just ahead of Taylor Lawrence. Jamie King in 3rd, but 4th overall. Darren Anderson in 5th. Reece Peacock in 6th. Darren Andrews down in 7th, with Taylor in 8th. Sean Whittaker in 9th, and Elliot Crosby in 10th place in this race.
Lovely race there, and brilliant finish for Ryan Hitchcock, who did a brilliant job of fighting through the field back up to the lead. And Rossi Banham, I'm sure, will be very happy indeed, equally starting way down the order after almost colliding with the back of Ryan Hitchcock's bike into off the line, as Ryan Hitchcock struggled to get that Extreme 200 off the pole position. He managed to claim 1st position in the pit bike 140 ahead of Taylor Lawrence by a 2nd on the final lap. Jamie King will leave the circuit and this weekend with the championship lead, however, in the pit bike 140. So that will be a very, very happy Sonic himself, as he will be packing up ready to go home. It's a long drive home for Jamie King, but he'll be doing it very much with a smile on his face, knowing that he has a brilliant chances of hopefully holding off Charlie Nesbitt. And Charlie, I'm sure, will be back at Red Lodge, and he'll be back from the BSB paddock wanting to reclaim that gap that Jamie has built out in the 140s. But if you've just joined us, thank you very much for tuning in. This is the FAB-Racing Mini Bike British Championship. It's round 6 from Cumbria Kart Circuit in Rowrah, up in the Lake District. And my name is Gareth, joined as always by Trystan Finocciaro, Superstock 600 rider from the BSB paddock, and he will be out on circuit next weekend. Where are you next weekend?
Alton Park next weekend, so a very different scenario to Silverstone. Definitely looking forward to that one. We've got 2 races there next weekend actually, so that's going to be a tiring one, but all my attention currently now is on these MKGP 50s, who are up next. And these are the stars of the future as they come out to line up on the grid. And what a category this is. And we're seeing a brilliant championship battle between Ethan Sparks and Ronnie Harris. But plenty of names in here looking for podiums. Names like Blake Wilson, also Ollie Horner, who's third on this grid. And this is going to be a very exciting one indeed. You can see that there is the number 62 of Ethan Sparks on pole position. The black bike with the orange number just ahead of the number 66 of Ronnie Harris there, right in your picture. Coming up to line in the third spot on the grid is Ollie Horner on the blue and yellow bike with the number 100 of Cameron Sewell just next to him. Fifth spot on the grid is Blake Wilson with Charlie Hunterford on the Motor Technics sponsored bike there in sixth. The seventh place is Sam Munson just ahead of Harrison McKay. Phillips Roviak there on the blue bike just next to the number 146 of Clayton Edmonds in 10th. The number 67 of Jacob Stevenson is in 11th ahead of Casey Sperry in 12th. Harry Payne in 13th with Ollie Sims rounding out your grid in 14th on this race.
We know that it's going to be Ethan Sparks who has got the advantage in this one. He's already taken 2 wins on the weekend. Ronnie Harris seemingly just not quite close enough to catch Ethan. So what can Ronnie do in this third and final race of the weekend? Ollie Horner equally had a good race too. He picked up a podium and held off the fight of Blake Wilson, who was on third in the first race of the weekend yesterday, which of course you can find by watching all of the replays back on FAB-Racing's YouTube and Facebook page throughout the week when the edited highlights are uploaded. So if you want to watch the GP50s, you can just watch the GP50s. So they'll be uploaded throughout the week. So make sure you like, share, subscribe and get involved with the FAB-Racing YouTube and Facebook community. This is the Road to MotoGP, part of Dorna's Road to MotoGP programme. It is an official partner of the Bennett's British Superbikes. This is FAB-Racing and the MK GP50s, the Metrokit GP50 bikes. These riders will be having their eyes firmly fixed on the 70 class or even the British Talent Cup in the next few years' time. Ethan Sparks is one of those riders. We might even see him picking up 2 championships on the mini motos and on the Metrokits, and I'm sure he will pretty much be rubbing his hands together at the prospect of a third race win this weekend, with Ronnie Harris maybe not quite close enough to put in a charge for the race win here. We'll see what Ronnie can do as he rolls into his grid slot, and once again Ethan Sparks very much focused, eyes staring forward, never looks left, never looks right, very much just staring at the lights, revving, getting ready to start his third race of the weekend. Cameron Sewell in 4th position. He'll be looking at a good result after a poor race too. Watch out for Felix Roviak from 10th position. He finished in 5th last time around as we go lights on, getting ready for the third and final race. Lights off. Ethan Sparks, very brilliant launch off the line, straight up into the lead. Ronnie Harris holds on to second. Blake Wilson now finds himself up ahead of Ollie Horner, and Cam Sewell dropped down to 5th position.
Yeah, Cam Sewell just seems to struggle off these starts. We've seen it in the 2 races for his drop from 4th to further down. And you see him running wide there. He just struggles at the beginning of these races and just drops through the order. It's such a shame because he's got such brilliant pace, and we do see him putting that pace down later in the race, but he just needs to sort out those first laps and make sure he can make some positions up in the early stages of these races instead of losing them. Also looking further back, the number 67 of Jacob Stevenson just leading ahead of Charlie Huntingford. You can see Ollie Sims there just making a move through on Harry Payne, trying to make his way through. There's battles all the way through this field, but it was these guys that were battling it out earlier on in the race earlier on today for that 5th spot, and it was such a brilliant battle, such close racing, and we expect to see even more of that in this race. But it's Ethan Sparks that has the lead and already has a 1.6 second lead across the line ahead of Ronnie Harris. No one has been able to catch Ethan Sparks this weekend. He's just putting down that pace once more, and Blake Wilson not too far away from Ronnie Harris at the moment, so Blake Wilson trying to go with Ronnie Harris in this one and trying to pick up a second place instead of third that he got earlier on today. But Harrison McKay defending from Sam Munson at the moment. Harrison McKay defending that 5th spot with Ollie Horner just ahead of them on the number 70 machine. Sam Munson looks to the inside, can't quite make a move stick at the moment. Still obviously plenty of laps to go in this one. 11 laps to go in this 12 lap race here for the MK GP50s. This is the final race of the weekend for the MK GP50s. We've seen 2 wins from Ethan Sparks. Will we see a third? He's definitely looking really hot to be able to do it. He's really quick out the front of this race with setting the fastest lap of the race on that last lap. Of course, that's their first flying lap of this race. 2.6 seconds is the lead that he has over Ronnie Harris. Harrison McKay still defending that bit, but Ollie Horner and Blake Wilson going with Ronnie Harris now. So this is a three-way battle for second place, and this could be very interesting indeed. We've seen Ollie Horner, a regular podium contender in this championship, and Blake Wilson finding some real pace in this part of the season. We saw him, he was quick back at Ella Park, and now he's right on the rear wheel of Ronnie Harris and challenging your second place man in the championship. And Ronnie Harris, this isn't what he wants at all, because he's obviously, his sights are set on Ethan Sparks and that championship. He's going to be wanting to pick up as many points as possible for that championship battle, but with these guys in the mix with him now, he could be losing some points here.
Yeah, absolutely so, and it was 26 points coming into this round that Ethan Sparks had built over Ronnie Harris, and Ronnie Harris has led the majority of the championship so far. It was only until Ella Park that Ronnie really started to suffer, and it was he's now falling into the clutches of Blake Wilson and Ollie Horner, who's starting to close in. In fact, Ollie Horner just drops off slightly, having a slower lap last time around, and this is really allowing Ethan Sparks to check out at the front. 3.5 seconds up the road is the 62 bike, and Ethan from Maidstone in Kent, it's a long way home, so he probably wants to get this race finished as soon as possible and get on the road, and he's doing it in sensational style, because at the moment he's up the road from Ronnie Harris, and his rival in the championship is under threat from Blake Wilson and Ollie Horner. So as you say, exactly the wrong scenario that Ronnie Harris wants to find himself in. Behind that battle once again is continuing, and we always see this in GP50s. We see this gaggle of bikes, and Filip Sorowiak's got a really nice run on Clayton Edmonds now to come into the final corner. Now Filip Sorowiak goes up the inside. Can he get the move done? He does sweep up the inside. So Filip Sorowiak up the inside. Will Clayton get the cut back up the inside goes Clayton Edmonds, back up into 7th position. But Clayton and Filip swapping positions. Filip has been very strong so far this weekend. We've seen him jumping up from 10th into 5th. He's having a good race this weekend. Harry Payne, another rider that wasn't expecting to race in the Metro Kits this season, he's up there fighting Casey Sperry. Yeah, he said that for him to be riding a Metro Kit this season is simply a bonus. He was just expecting to be riding the mini motos this year, so for him to be able to have a go on this MKGP50 for him is just a bonus, and it's a learning year for him in this MKGP50 category. So he's going to be learning every lap he does on that mini GP50 machine, and doing a brilliant job of it, battling with some of these guys that have been riding these bikes for a little bit longer than he has, the likes of 67 Jacob Stevenson, Ollie Sims in there, the number 20 of Casey Sperry, who we saw got robbed of a win last time out at Ella Park in the LC40 elite class. So a lot of big names in this category, and a very tough category to come into and get your results in, because we see, of course, lots of big names in this one, and a real depth of field throughout. You've seen riders such as Ethan Sparks, Ronnie Harris at the front, very quick indeed. Clayton Edmonds, who's down in 7th, he's had a win earlier this season. Filip Sorowiak picked up 5th earlier on. This is a very competitive class indeed, and it's brilliant to watch, and always provides us with great racing as well. As we just see there, Clayton Edmonds leading ahead of Filip Sorowiak. This is the battle for 7th going on just slightly up the road, as well as the battle between the number 61 of Harrison McKay and the number 72 of Sam Munson. We saw these two battling it out earlier in race 2, and now they're side by side as they go into the final corner. Sam Munson trying to go the long way around. That's not going to work, but will he get the drive onto the home straight? He's trying to get that drive onto the home straight and down into the first corner. He does make that stick. A brilliantly prepared move there from the number 72 of Sam Munson. Went real wide on the entrance to the final corner, got the drive that he needed to down the straight so he could be alongside Harrison McKay as he went into the first corner. So a brilliant bit of racecraft there from Sam Munson, really impressive from the number 72. But this swapping positions between these guys is just letting the two behind him, the two riders behind them of Clayton Edmonds and Filip Sorowiak, to catch these guys a little bit. You just see they're closing in. Clayton's closing in on the number 61 of Harrison McKay in this battle at the moment. So number 146 Clayton Edmonds looking strong this weekend. He's had quite a bit of bad luck this weekend as Clayton. He had a missing foot peg earlier on in the GP70 race. He had a leaking carb in qualifying in the MKGP50s, so not quite able to show us what he's capable of this weekend. No, we've seen from Clayton, he's a very strong driver. He just needs the bike to be under him, and unfortunately I'm sure his dad has been pulling his hair out from underneath him, and it's really been a struggle for Clayton to make sure that he can get that bike going, because it's been a real struggle for him. He's had issues here and there. We know that he's very strong, and I'm sure he'll get back on the pace in Red Lodge in 2 weeks' time, as Filip Sorowiak gets a run out out, took a tighter line through the hairpin at turn 4 and unable to get the launch up the inside of Clayton Edmonds on that very colourful bike. And you can always tell where Clayton is on circuit, because he's very much a feast of the eyes of colour, and he does a brilliant job out there on that one, and under difficult circumstances. However, this time he's stuck in this battle for 6th position between Sam Munson, Harrison McKay, and Sam, who made that brilliant move on Harrison, shaping it up into the main straight later, a few laps ago. And they're now having this battle with Clayton Edmonds and Filip Sorowiak close in, with Filip Sorowiak looking really strong, trying to get past Clayton Edmonds. But one rider at the front that is really starting to pull away is Ethan Sparks. He went fastest in that last time around, a 54.802, comfortably faster than Ronnie Harris. And Ronnie in 2nd position on the track, in 2nd position in the championship, and still fending off Blake Wilson. He's not come under too much threat. They're just there. It's an annoyance, isn't it? They're not a threat, it's just an annoyance.
Yeah, absolutely so. I mean, but Blake Wilson trying all he can to get onto the back of Ronnie Harris. But we've seen Ethan Sparks, Ronnie Harris in a bit of a class above the rest so far this season. So for the likes of Blake Wilson and Ollie Horner to be able to go with him, they're just trying to hang on to his coattails at the moment in this race. But Ronnie Harris definitely with the advantage over them at the moment, with 0.8 of a second lead he has over the likes of Blake Wilson and Ollie Horner. So those guys battling it out for the 2nd and 3rd places on the podium in this race, the final race of the day for the MKGP 50s. We've seen Ethan Sparks take 2 from 2 so far this weekend and a pole position. So will he be able to take 3 from 3? Well, he's looking in a very good place to be able to do it. 6.2 seconds it was last time over the line. Just easing that pace off a little bit now. He's got a nice big lead at the front. 3 laps to go in this race. Doesn't need to do anything stupid now. Just needs to just bring it home there in first place. Bring him 25 points for the championship and extend that championship lead. Of course, Ethan Sparks looking to pick up 2 championships this year. He's leading the AC40 Pros as well as leading the MKGP 50s. So he could very well become a double champion this year, could the number 62 of Ethan Sparks. So it could be 2020, could definitely be Ethan Sparks' year. But Sam Munson now just ahead of Harrison McKay. This is the battle for 5th spot, hotting up really nicely. And now Clayton Edmonds is right on the back of these guys. So Clayton has closed in on the number 61 of Harrison McKay and the number 72 of Sam Munson, and he's going to be looking to try and find his way through on these riders. You can just see there, using all the track as the number 61 of Harrison McKay, doing everything he can to make himself as wide as possible to make sure Clayton Edmonds can't find his way through. But I think that was Sam Munson that must have gone wide there, because Harrison McKay and Clayton Edmonds are now ahead of Samuel Munson. So a mistake at the hairpin there for Sam Munson has let Harrison McKay through, and now Clayton Edmonds up into 6th spot in this race.
Yep, as they trade positions once again, and Sam, all of the good work he'd done earlier in this one has been undone with that just the smallest of errors, running a slightly wide as Clayton Edmonds is going to look to the inside of Harrison McKay. Door not quite open. Sam Munson equally is going to want to get back on the pace and get ahead of Clayton Edmonds. They're going to use all the runoff area, and will Sam look to do the same thing as Munson takes a tight line around the final corner and tries to get a run on Clayton Edmonds as they come up to the line. We're on the final lap of this one, and it's Ethan Sparks leading away by 7 seconds to Ronnie Harris in 2nd position. Blake Wilson and Ollie Horner have not had anything to really challenge Ronnie Harris with, but the man at the front, Ethan Sparks, has had a comfortable weekend so far. He's been way up the road from everyone else and really dominated this MKGP 70 weekend, and it's the 750 weekend, sorry, but it's going to come around the final few corners. Into Sunny Bend comes Ethan Sparks. Into the final corner for the final time this weekend comes Ethan Sparks, coming to the line to take the checkered flag. And Ethan Sparks is a multi-time race winner this weekend and takes a big lead in the championship, going to Red Lodge. Up to the line comes Ronnie Harris, 2nd position for Ronnie, and then Blake Wilson rounds out the podium with Ollie Horner in 4th. Up to the line, it's going to be Clayton Edmonds, Harrison McKay, Sam Munson and Filip Sorowiak. So all 4 of them coming to the line within a second of each other. Clayton Edmonds getting Harrison McKay on the last lap up into 5th position. Brilliant result there from the 146 Clayton.
Yeah, that was a brilliant race there for Clayton Edmonds. Just carved his way through the field from 10th place on the grid. So a brilliant 5th place there from Clayton Edmonds. And that is the first time this season that anyone has taken 3 wins from 3 in the MKGP 50 class. These guys have always been really matched for pace at the front of this one, but not this weekend. weekend. Ethan Sparks has been the dominant force and has taken this weekend by force and just picked up 3 wins from 3 here for the MKGP 50s and extends his championship lead out the front. He's leading the AC40 Pros and he's leading the MKGP 50s. And there it is confirmed then. Ethan Sparks takes his 3rd win of the weekend, the only rider to pick up 3 from 3 this year in the MKGP 50s, with Ronnie Harris 2nd in the championship and 2nd in that race. Blake Wilson with another brilliant podium there in 3rd place. Ollie Horner in 4th. Clayton Edmonds with a brilliant 5th place, coming up from 10th on the grid. Harrison McKay picks up 6th ahead of Sam Munson in 7th. Philip Saraviak, who picked up 5th earlier on, he finished 8th in this one, ahead of Cameron Saul, who was having a good weekend, and Charlie Huntingford down in 10th place.
What a fight we've got building for 3rd place in the MKGP 50 Championship as well, with Ollie Horner, Harrison McKay, Clayton Evans, Sam Munson, Blake Wilson all within 20 points of each other leaving Rowrah. So that one is really starting to heat up for a top 3 finish in this championship. So watch out for that as they head to Red Lodge in a few weeks' time. We go back over to East Anglia after we were there just 2 weeks ago back at Ella Park. Of course, we've had plenty of action, but well, more action comes the way of the senior mini motos as they make their way out on circuit, and it's very much been a weekend to remember if you are named Matt Birkin, and he will be lining up on the pole position once again. He has taken 5 wins on the bounce every time he's raced here in the seniors. He has won, and he will be lining up from the pole alongside brother Josh Birkin. Bernie Hook is in 3rd position. He's got his transponder on this time, so he won't get disqualified from the race results, so he will be lining up in 4th. But it is Matt Birkin on the pole with a time of 56.671 ahead of Josh Birkin in 2nd. Andy Whedon in 3rd with Bernie Hook in 4th. Reigning champion and championship leader Holly Harris in 5th position, ahead of Adam Ambrose and Nick Bennett in 6th and 7th. And then we have the dads, some of them that are lining up. Well, Justin Foster, dad of Mason Foster, and then you've got Dave Sellers, who unfortunately had a couple of issues with the bike in race 2. Simon Huntingford, who was definitely the head of the field of the dads. And then you're meant to have Elliot Holt, of course, Michael Holt's dad, Paul Johnston, Paul Bannister and Danny Shaw, if they've decided to make their way to the grid with the dads that went out there in race 1. Perhaps were a little bit too early in the morning to go out and race 2, and probably want to shoot off early, I'd imagine, this afternoon. Yeah,
I was a little bit disappointed with the turnout from the dads earlier on. They've bigged up this dads race for so long. They didn't even bother going out in the first race, but yeah, possibly, like you say, a little bit early in the day for them, or very possibly just tired out from that race they had yesterday. It's not as easy as it looks riding these mini motos around this Rowrah kart circuit, and but one rider that makes it look really easy is the number 5 of Matt Birkin, who is on pole position on this one with Josh Birkin side by side on the grid. The lights go on, the lights go off as they go down into turn 1 for the final time this weekend. It's a good start from Andy Whedon there on the number 7, slotting himself underneath Bernie Hook, but Bernie Hook isn't phased at all, goes round the outside of Andy Whedon, and it's Matt Birkin leading this one. Bernie Hook now with a transponder on in this race, so he will be classified in this race, unlike earlier on. But Matt Birkin then, who has taken 2 wins this weekend and looking to pick up his 3rd win this weekend. But it looks as if Bernie Hook trying to go around the outside of Josh Birkin, can't quite make a move stick here. That would have been a very good move if you could have made that one stick. But looking further back there, you can see Simon Huntingford in this one as well, Nick Bennett, Holly Harris also in there. All these riders fighting out for these positions in this senior mini moto race. The dad battle currently being won by Simon Huntingford, of course, father of Charlie Huntingford, who's leading the LC40 Elite category. But will anyone be able to stick with the number 5 of Matt Birkin? Josh Birkin, the number 4, is doing all he can to stay onto the back wheel of Matt Birkin in this one. Simon Huntingford trying to go around the outside of Holly Harris. That won't work. You can't go around the outside of a rider like Holly.
No, absolutely not. She's definitely going to shut the door. But one person that had the door shut firmly in his face was Andy Whedon. Andy Whedon, who has had 2 mega starts off the line, has had Bernie Hook and Matt Birkin very much say, nope, you're not coming past at turn 1, and Andy's going to have to go again. But Matt Birkin, this time, not like we've so far seen him pretty much check out at the front, but he's very much taking a train of bikes with him. Bernie Hook is one of them, Josh Birkin and Andy Whedon, making it a 4-bike fight for the lead of this one as they all tuck in down the back straight, going down towards turn 6 at Stewart for the third time, as we've got 8 laps left to go in this one. Matt Birkin is very much a man on form when he gets on that 5 machine. He is very much looking at picking up some good results. He took second position in the championship. However, it's Bernie Hook, your championship leader, who's got a mammoth lead coming into this round. It's not really been eked away too much by Matt Birkin, because there was quite a decent gap between the pair of them as Josh goes up the inside. Not quite able to get it done, but Bernie Hook, who actually won the championship at this round last year, this time around he's probably going to have to wait 2 more weeks until Red Lodge to sew it up, if all things go to plan. If you are Bernie Hook, behind you can see that's Simon Huntingford, who has got past Holly Harris, so Holly unable to get the pace down, and maybe not as fast as what we've seen from Holly in the last few rounds or so.
Yeah, perhaps not taking to this Rowrah kart circuit as well as she has for the couple of the other circuits we've seen so far this season. Just not quite showing the pace that we're used to seeing from Holly. We're used to seeing her fighting with the likes of Matt Birkin, Bernie Hook, Andy Whedon, who stole a couple of victories away from her back at Ella Park. Yeah, we're used to seeing her right at the sharp end of the senior mini moto racer. Perhaps not quite getting to grips with this Rowrah circuit as well as she has with some of the others. Now trying to find her way past the number 47 of Simon Huntingford, fastest of the dads, but only 2 out there in this race. Simon Huntingford and Dave Sellers repping the dads in this one, but looks as if Dave Sellers has some sort of technical issue or is out of this race for some reason, as he's went out 3 laps ago. So no Dave Sellers in this one, so only the one dad racing against himself in this race. But it's Bernie Hook then who has now taken this second place in this race so far, but it's Matt Birkin who is currently leading this one. See Simon Huntingford now just pulling away from the number 15 of Holly Harris. Adam Ambrose just behind, also trying to get in there as well. All these riders really closely matched for pace at the front. You can see Josh Birkin trying to get onto the back of Bernie Hook in this one, right on his back wheel, gets a brilliant drive out there, uses all the track, has a look down into the final corner. Can he make a move stick? Yes, he can, but will Bernie Hook be able to get the cut back? He's going to do everything he can to try and do it right in his slipstream, is Bernie Hook, because he has a look down into turn 1, not quite close enough into turn 1. Difficult move to make into turn 1. You see, the only way they've been able to do it is to get that drive out in the final corner, get alongside their competitors and make sure they're already there before they even tip in.
Yeah, and Matt Birkin very much not allowing Bernie Hook that opportunity. In fact, Bernie tucking right down. Look at the streamline from the reigning champion as he goes down, sweeps around the outside of Josh Birkin, back up into second position, and Josh has got it all to do once again. And I actually think this is the most that Josh has stayed on 2 wheels this season. We're used to seeing him deciding to spend most of it on his bum and then getting back on the bike. I think I said on Friday that he's the only rider so far that has been on the ground twice in one race and come back and finished on the podium. So if he keeps on 2 wheels, we know he can be competitive, but at the moment he's involved in this 3-way battle for second position. It's allowing his brother Matt to check out at the front, and he's going to close in on Bernie Hook. Almost contact between the pair of them as they come into the final corner up to the line. Bernie Hook leads in second position from Josh Bird and Andy Whedon. The 3 came across the line, split by 0.3 of a second. However, the gap at the top is now up at 2.1 with Matt Birkin leading away. He set the fastest lap last time around of 56.908, so he's comfortably 0.7 of a second faster than anyone else on circuit. Nick Bennett is currently trying to close in on this battle for second, third and fourth, but a little bit of a distance between himself and Andy Whedon. Simon Huntingford is still holding off Holly Harris. Holly desperately trying to get back up into 6th position. She's got a championship to worry about because she's still aiming for second in this championship with Matt Birkin leading. This is the worst case scenario if you're Holly.
Yeah, absolutely. So this isn't going to do her championship campaign any good at all, with Matt Birkin flying away out the front and Holly just struggling in this one by her standards, just trying to get through on the number 47 of Simon Huntingford. Could still finish in 5th in this race if she can get through on Simon Huntingford and Nick Bennett just ahead. But Simon Huntingford, a rider in the dad's race this weekend, but also a name we've seen in the senior mini moto class before as well. So well versed in this senior mini moto category, and the only dad actually out there representing this weekend, well, in this race. But Holly Harris looks to the inside of Simon Hunter, who can't quite make a move stick there. She's also got to be thinking about Adam Ambrose, who's just behind, but it's Nick Bennett who is leading this group on the in 5th spot in this race. This is the battle for 5th in this race, just behind the battle further up the road, which is the battle for 2nd. But Nick Bennett with a little bit of breathing space in this one, but one rider that doesn't have any breathing space at all is the number 4 of Josh Birkin. He's got an ominous number 0 of Bernie Hook right behind him, all over his rear wheel, trying to find a way through as they go on to start the penultimate lap in this race 3 for the senior mini motos. Who's it going to be that's going to take this 2nd place? Matt Birkin is out front, although it seems as if they're closing Matt Birkin in a little bit. The gap's now down to 1.5 seconds. So is Matt Birkin just cruising a little bit now, or does he have some sort of issue? Because they're definitely catching Matt Birkin at the front now, but we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen with that one. Josh Birkin, a little bit of breathing space now ahead of Bernie Hook. Bernie Hook looking behind him. He'll see the number 7 of Andy Whedon, who's in there looking to pick up another podium. Of course, Andy Whedon picking up wins last time out at Ella Park.
Yeah, he did 2 wins back at Ella Park, both picking up on the final lap of the race. Matt Birkin, as you say, is now well in sight of Josh Birkin, with Josh trying to close in on the 5 ahead of him, and Matt will get, I'm sure, just dropping back a little bit just to see if he can get involved in a little bit of a battle. He doesn't want to be out there on his own, just enjoy it. You can see double glance over his shoulder as he comes around the final corner to work out where Josh is, and the gap is now only a half a second as we go on to the final lap of this one, the last race of the weekend for the senior mini motos. Last time around, Josh Birkin set the fastest lap of 56.347. In fact, he was comfortably faster than Matt Birkin, and the gap has really come down as they go towards Ardales at turn 5 for the final time. Matt Birkin is under real threat from losing this streak of race wins that he's had tucks in. You can see the different riding styles that both the Birkins have there. Josh having his legs splayed out, Matt very much tucking them in as they come round to the final few corners. It's going to go right down to the wire, and can Josh Birkin do anything about it? Matt's going to try and cover off the inside line into Sunny Bend. We've only got 1 corner left to go. Matt's opened the door for Josh to go down the inside. Can he get the cut back round the outside? They're going to go side by side to the line. It's going to be a dash to the line. It's Josh Birkin on the line, takes it from Matt Birkin, and then on the line, and Bernie Hook loses 3rd position to Andy Whedon. Josh Birkin just about stealing. You can see there, Matt Birkin cannot believe it. He had a huge lead, let the door wide open for Josh, and Josh took full advantage of that.
What a last lap we had there from those two. You saw Josh Birkin steal that win away from Matt Birkin, and Andy Whedon stealing a podium away from Bernie Hook right at the end. So drama right at the end of this senior mini moto race. It was looking as if it was going to go in the way of Matt Birkin, but Josh Birkin was not having it. Got some brilliant drive out of the penultimate corner, got right up alongside Matt Birkin, and they were just, neither of them wanted to give way through that final corner. They both wanted that victory, but this time it was Josh Birkin that took the win ahead of Matt. So Matt's picked up some wins in this class, and now so has Josh, and we can now say that Josh Birkin has managed to stay on the bike for the whole weekend.
He has, so well done to Josh Birkin. He also picks up the race win and gets the 1 over on Matt. Matt loses that streak of race wins he's had for the last few rounds. Of course, he was on for a double hat-trick of race wins, but it stops at 5, and it is stopped by Josh Birkin. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us for round 6 here at Rowrah. It is the road to MotoGP, the official partner to the Bennett's Superbike, FAB-Racing, and we are here with just a few more rounds left to go. And a few more rounds left to go for the LC40 Elites. The LC40 Elites, of course, the final step in the mini moto class before they head up to the metric hit, the GP50s and GP70s. And this season, we've got the likes of Charlie Huntingford, we've got the likes of Ryan Hitchcock, of course, British Talent Cup rider, making his return back down to the mini motos. However, the rider of the weekend in the LC40 Elites has been the 91 Archie O'Brien, who's been spectacular.
Yeah, absolutely. Picked up 2 wins so far this weekend. 3 wins on the bounce for the number 91 of Archie O'Brien. So it's been a brilliant weekend so far for Archie O'Brien, and he's going to be looking to make it 3 from 3. We saw Ethan Sparks make it 3 from 3 in the GP50s, but will Archie O'Brien, he looks determined on that one, absolutely revving that throttle on that LC40 Elite machine. These bikes very similar to the bikes we just saw out in the senior mini moto category, liquid cooled 40cc two-strokes with a bit more power than the AC40 bikes that we saw earlier on in this race. Of course, some of the riders in this class opting to run their air-cooled bikes simply for more track time. But the fastest of the LC40 elites this weekend has been Archie O'Brien, who lines up on pole position ahead of Charlie Huntingford, your championship leader. Josh Bannister, who's had a very unlucky season, he lines up in third spot ahead of second place man in the championship and British Talent Cup rider Ryan Hitchcock. Archie Gibbs lines up in fifth spot ahead of Sam Munson in sixth. Casey Sperry in seventh ahead of the number 58 of Marco Holt down in eighth. Thorley Trevorrow in ninth and Josh Williams down in 10th. But that's Archie Gibbs, who we saw, who had a problem earlier on in the AC40 Pro category. He's now had a problem here in this one as well, and he looks absolutely furious with that. Unfortunately, he was ruled out of the AC40 Pro race earlier on today, and now he seems to be ruled out of the LC40 Elite one. So bike problems there for the number 3. Not looking happy at all with that one, and doesn't look like he'll be able to get back out into this race as his dad runs over, tries to get that bike restarted again. We saw scenes like this earlier in the air-cooled race, but he's trying to get that bike started. So some terminal problems there for the number 3 of Archie Gibbs. So unfortunate to see, but one rider who's Archie, who's having loads of luck so far this weekend is Archie O'Brien. Don't want to jinx him on pole position, but Archie Gibbs is now back underway in this race. So he seems to be coming. He's stopped again, so there's something wrong with that bike that he can't be able to start this race. Looks distraught with that one, does the number 3 of Archie Gibbs. Front runner over in the AC40 Pro category. So Marshall comes over to give him a hand, but these riders are waiting on the grid. You can see there the 5th place spot on the grid is empty. No Archie Gibbs in this one, but it's Archie O'Brien who is on pole position and looks to the light for the final time this weekend for the LC40 Elites. The lights are out and they are way down to turn 1 for the final time this weekend. Brilliant start there from Archie O'Brien, holds on to the lead. Charlie Huntingford holds on to second. Ryan Hitchcock round the outside of Josh Bannister into turn 1 to take third place. Ryan Hitchcock determined to make sure Archie O'Brien can't get away. We saw in race 1 Archie O'Brien flew away at the front. He didn't have it all his own way in race 2 with the other riders following him. He did manage to pick up the win in the end, though, with the number 20 of Casey Sperry going up the inside of the number 72 of Samuel Munson a bit further back. But it's these guys out the front. Looks as if Ryan Hitchcock just struggling to stay onto the back of Charlie Huntingford there, so perhaps a little problem for Ryan Hitchcock, so he's going to have to regroup and get back onto the back rear wheel of Charlie Huntingford. But Charlie Huntingford absolutely sticking with Archie O'Brien on this opening lap.
Yeah, Archie O'Brien under real pressure from Charlie Huntingford early on in this one, and you've got to think that Charlie is going to want to get a race win this weekend, and in fact he's staying right with Archie O'Brien. But Archie has been very much a rider possessed in this LC40 Elite class, but this is the 3 that we've seen so far this weekend leading the LC40 Elite class. It's been Archie O'Brien, it's been Charlie Huntingford, and it's been Charlie's rival for the championship, Ryan Hitchcock, as Archie Gibbs unfortunately takes a walk to the side of the circuit. It's not been his LC40 weekend. He only managed a few corners in race 2 and doesn't even manage to start in race 3. However, Archie O'Brien has been making the most of every opportunity that has been open to him here in the LC40s, currently leading away. And as we noted in the second race, he's just so powerful when he exits onto these long straights.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's got a little bit of advantage compared to Charlie Huntingford and Ryan Hitchcock in terms of his size. He's a little bit lighter than these. You can visibly see how much smaller little Archie O'Brien is compared to those guys. So he's got an advantage in a straight line for sure, has Archie O'Brien. But that doesn't take away from the fact that he's absolutely riding the wheels off of that little LC40 machine. He's really coming into his own in this class, and he's a really impressive rider to watch. Uses every inch of the track, and that's Joshua Williams that's gone down at turn 2. So disaster for Josh Williams as he picked up a podium earlier on in the AC40 Pro class, just as his season was looking to start to turn around. He has a really unlucky crash. They can just see handlebar belt bent in there, so hopefully they'll be able to get that back underway.
Yeah, it's a real shame there for Josh Williams, who was he had a good run in the AC40 Pros earlier, but not quite able to replicate it in the LC40 Elites. As you can see, they all try and get the bike restarted. Of course, he's going to want to get back on the saddle and get back underway, but unfortunately at the moment he's going to be finding himself a lap down. Marco Holt is desperately trying to hold off the 42 of Thorley Trevorrow in 8th and 9th position, and Marco he's had a really good run so far this season in the LC40s as he gets passed by Thorley. Can he do the cutback? He can do the cutback. There's a word in there somewhere, but as Marco back up the inside, he was the beneficiary of the unfortunate Casey Sperry's last lap grinding to a halt back at Ella Park, and Marco Holt managed to pick up a race win. But so it's strange to see Marco so far down, 7th position, maybe not where we're used to seeing him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Of course, Marco Holt and Thorley Trevorrow running air-cooled bikes in this LC40 elite category, so at a bit of a disadvantage compared to the likes of Archie O'Brien, Charlie Huntingford, Ryan Hitchcock, Josh Bannister, Casey Sperry, Sam Munson. They're all on the liquid-cooled bikes, so they get a bit of an advantage in a straight line. But of course, these riders who are riders in the AC40 Pro category out here in this race to get a bit more track time on their air-cooled bikes, and at the same time they can race each other whilst they're out there. So Thorley Trevorrow currently the fastest of the air-cooled bikes, just fending off the number 58 of Marco Holt. But you can be sure that battle's going to go right down to the wire, and a battle that's looking like it's going right down to the wire as well is the battle at the front between Archie O'Brien and Charlie Huntingford. Charlie Huntingford looking really good round this Rowrah kart circuit. Of course, on that Moto Technics sponsored machine you see there with the blue livery and the yellow flashes on there. That's the Moto Technics colour, a livery you'll be familiar with if you remember watching Ryan Vickers back in the days of Stock 6, where he just completely walked away with that championship. And another rider who's looking to walk away with the championship is the number 76 of Charlie Huntingford, who's trying to get this win, and he's doing a good job of it, keeping in front of Ryan Hitchcock, who's now 3.5 seconds behind Archie O'Brien. So not the pace we're used to seeing from Ryan Hitchcock, so perhaps some sort of problems there for the number 43. But now it's the two-rider battle at the front between Archie O'Brien and Charlie Huntingford. Charlie Huntingford, of course, your championship leader, but Archie O'Brien with 3 wins on the bounce so far. Can he make it 3 this weekend? He's going to have to fend off Charlie Huntingford if he's going to make it that way. Yeah, if you're Charlie Huntingford, you are going to be sick to death of the rear tyre of Archie O'Brien. It seems like it's the only thing he's been looking at so far this weekend in this LC40 elite class, and that has been Archie O'Brien comfortably holding on to the lead. And but I'm sure Charlie will have something to do about it, because he last time around went fastest overall. 54.491 was a tenth of a second faster than Archie O'Brien, so that gap came down to 0.4 of a second and extended out to Ryan Hitchcock, who's now dropped 4.6 seconds behind. The battle for 7th position is still raging between Thorley Trevorrow in 7th and Marco Holt in 8th place, and Thorley, who's had a pretty good weekend so far in all competitions, so I'm sure he'll be pretty buoyed by his results so far, and Marco will be trying to stay with him as they battle down the tail end of the top 10. Archie O'Brien last time around went fastest at 54.458, so he's responded to the pace that got laid down by Charlie Huntingford, and Ryan Hitchcock cannot respond to any of this. He's now 5.9 seconds off the lead. Yeah, absolutely so. Perhaps just struggling a little bit there is the number 43 of Ryan Hitchcock. Not what we're used to seeing from him, about a second a lap slower than your race leaders. But Archie O'Brien really putting down a hot pace, setting the fastest lap of the race on that last lap. But Charlie Huntingford is completely going with him, matching the fastest lap of the race as well. So these guys both going around on a 54.4 on that last lap. But Charlie Huntingford, brilliant drive out the final corner, tries to go around the outside of Archie O'Brien, can't quite make that one stick. But brilliant, consistent pace being shown at the front from these guys, and still 2 laps to go in this race. Will Charlie Huntingford be able to make a move on Archie O'Brien? We'll have to wait and see. He's a little bit far at the moment, but he's got a lap and a half to get right onto that rear wheel of Archie O'Brien. But of course, with Archie having such an advantage in a straight line, you're going to have to think Charlie Huntingford's going to have to do it somewhere between the two final corners, into the penultimate corner, where he can go from one corner to the other, get a cut back on him, and so it's a place where he doesn't have to be side by side onto a straight, because Archie O'Brien does have a bit of an advantage in a straight line, so he's going to have to do it in one of these corners here, where he can just get it from one corner to the other. But not close enough at the moment to make a move as they go on to start the final lap. He's trying to get right onto the rear wheel of Archie O'Brien. This is it then, the final lap for the LC40 Elites. Will Archie O'Brien be able to make it 3 wins from 3 this weekend? They head down into the hairpin for the final time. Charlie Hunterford looks to the inside, can't quite make a move stick. There's no way through there at the moment. You're going to have to think he's going to have to do it somewhere later on in this lap, because you can visibly see that the number 91 does have an advantage in a straight line. They're coming up to Bailey Lawrence there. They're coming around to a little bit of lap traffic, so hopefully they'll be able to make their way through there nice and cleanly. No problem for either of those riders. You're going to have to think Archie O'Brien has this one in the bag. He's got a little bit of breathing space now ahead of the number 76 of Charlie Huntingford. Championship leader is going to be looking to rack up as many points as possible, but of course Ryan Hitchcock is behind him, and that is his main priority as they come into the final corner for the final time. Archie O'Brien has defended well, and it's going to be Archie O'Brien that's going to take this win. But can Charlie Huntingford get the track to the line? No, it is Archie O'Brien that takes the win ahead of Charlie Huntingford. Brilliant race win there from the number 91 of Archie O'Brien. Takes 3 wins from 3, and if I am correct, he's the only rider this season to do that in this class.
He is indeed, and he joins Ethan Sparks as a hat-trick race winner this weekend. Thorley and Marco have been glued to each other the entire time away through this race, and Marco's going to take the deeper line into the final corner, try and get the cutback. Can he get a run to the line? They're going to go side by side to the line. It is Thorley Trevorrow that holds on to 7th position, Marco Holt in 8th, but Archie O'Brien, even with Charlie Hitchcock, with the fastest lap on the final lap of that one on a 54.210, he just holds on to it. 75 points to take away from the weekend for Archie O'Brien. He will be absolutely ecstatic with that one, and Archie O'Brien is your race winner here, and your triple race winner here in the LC40 Elites this weekend from Rowrah. He takes the win ahead of Charlie Hunterford, championship leader, in 2nd. Ryan Hitchcock in 3rd. Could not stay with them, 10 seconds back. Josh Bannister in 4th, with Casey Sperry moving up to 5th. Sam Munson in 6th, with Thorley Trevorrow in 7th, with Marco Holt 8th. Luke Fitcher in 9th, with Bailey Lawrence coming home in 10th, with Josh Williams having an issue falling down to 11th, and unfortunately Archie Gibbs was unable to make the start. A couple of issues, it seems, on that mini moto for Archie Gibbs. I'm sure he'll be back strong in Red Lodge in a few weeks' time, but very much the rider of the moment is Archie O'Brien.
Yeah, absolutely. So 4 wins on the bounce for Archie O'Brien, and he could very well turn into a championship threat if he keeps racking up these wins. But Charlie Huntingford extends his championship lead now over Ryan Hitchcock, so he'll be pleased with that one. Couldn't quite get the better of Archie O'Brien, but he was such a dominant force this weekend, and a rider I really expect to see climbing up through these ranks, because really impressed with Archie O'Brien this year. But now our attention goes to the Moto Team category, the 3rd race of the weekend for these guys. We've seen these guys with no pit bike 140s in their way this weekend, and it's given us some such exciting racing in the Moto Team category. We had everything in that last race, from passes, contact being made, riders running wide, a runaway leader. They even caught the leader towards the end of it, and expect this race to be very exciting indeed. And of course, that championship battle between Jason Pugh and the team of Simon Clowes hotting up very nicely indeed.
It is indeed, but it was Ian Jackson that took the race to win. Jason Pugh was a lot of fun to watch in race 2, so if you've missed it, make sure you check it all back on the social media channels. Of course, you can watch it on FAB-Racing's YouTube and Facebook page, and of course everything associated with motorsport.radio, as we watch the final race of the weekend in the Moto Team class, with Jason Pugh lining up on the pole position ahead of Ian Jackson, the race 2 race winner. Neil Kinnaird in 3rd, with the 133 of Simon Clowes Racing being raced by Tony Campana Senior in 4th position. Fraser Kinnaird in 5th, with Vince Bailey back in 6th. Row 4 is Alistair Kinnaird and Mark Pollitt, who was unable to make the start in race 2, with Gus Billing back in 9th and Ian Todd in 10th. Outside the top 10 on row 6, we've got Phil Mapplebeck in 11th, with Phil Joyce in 12th, and Reece Todd Brown rounds out the grid in 13th position. Now, Moto Team, as you said, now that they've had this race on their own this weekend, I'm sure they're going to be pleading to Roger Keys, the race director, can we have this every time, because it's been so much fun just being able to battle with each other.
Absolutely so, and I'm definitely in favour of them having their own race, because it's been so entertaining for us to watch, and it's given us an opportunity to completely focus on Moto Team as well, because of course when they're out there with the pit bike 140s, it's a massive grid with both the pit bike 140s and the Moto Team, and you focus on pit bike 140s, you focus a little bit on Moto Team, and you can't give one your complete attention. But now just being able to focus on these guys has been absolutely brilliant this weekend, and they've provided us with some real entertaining racing. And now for the final race of the weekend for the Moto Team, it's going to be a real exciting one. Of course, that battle for the championship hotting up really nicely with no Will Howarth here this weekend, but their eyes are to the lights for race 3, the final race of the weekend for the Moto Team. The lights are on and the lights are off, and they're away here. Bit of a slow start there for Ian Jackson as Jason Pugh takes the lead down into turn 1, and it's Neil Kinnaird up into 3rd spot. So Ian Jackson running over the inside curb going through turn 3. They're all through the first set of corners nice and cleanly. Ian Jackson up the inside going into the hairpin, but Jason Pugh gets the cut back. Will that let Neil Kinnaird have a go at Ian Jackson? Not quite close enough. Jason Pugh goes real defensive down into Iredale's hairpin for the first time. So all these riders away nice and cleanly. Battles going on all the way through this field. The number 133 representing Simon Clowes this weekend, Tony Campana, right on the back of these guys. He's going to be looking to pick up a win if he can and score as many points for Simon Clowes as he can. But it's Jason Pugh who leads on this opening lap, and this is looking to be a brilliant battle that's going to be brewing here as Ian Jackson has a look at Neil Kinnaird, who's now moved up into 2nd place in this race. So absolute drama at the beginning of these races between all these guys, swapping and changing positions ready, and expect to see that as the race goes on.
Yeah, brilliant stuff for Neil Kinnaird, and he's now looking at the back of Jason Pugh for the race lead. And Neil, who got battered and bruised around in race 2, and in fact he might come under threat from Ian Jackson on that pit bike looking machine on the 7 just behind Neil Kinnaird's 83 bike. Neil Kinnaird, who went fastest last time around, is starting to get a good run on Jason Pugh as they go down towards the hairpin. In fact, he's going to take the inside line. Will the cutback be available for Jason Pugh? It is. So Jason just gets the under and over and back up into this one. But a nice sighter move there for Neil Kinnaird, just trying to find where the overtaking options are. But you can see we've got a little bit of a breakaway quadruped at the moment with you've got Jason Pugh, you've got Ian Jackson, you've got Neil Kinnaird and Simon Clowes racing. As we said, it's being raced by Tony Campana, and he now gets himself up into 3rd position. So I'm sure Simon will be watching at a sideline with that, of course, out this weekend with an arm injury. He'll be watching and very much clapping Tony Campana moving up into the podium positions, because of course this is a brilliant run for Simon. He's looking at picking up a 2nd consecutive championship win here in the Moto Team class with Jason Pugh leading. That's the last thing he wants. He needs Tony Campana to be closing in on Ian Jackson on Neil Kinnaird and Jason Pugh. But yeah, podium is a good result so far.
Absolutely so. I mean, Simon Clowes assured us earlier in the weekend that Tony Campana will get quicker and quicker as the weekend went on, and he's proving to be correct as Tony Campana in that battle for the win in this race 3 for the Moto Team race. But Neil Kinnaird now looking to try and get up in front of Jason Pugh. But Jason Pugh goes real defensive, making sure there's no way through for Neil Kinnaird. He tried to go around the long way round, but Jason Pugh wasn't having any of it, riding a real defensive ride as Tony Campana on the 1-3 goes up the inside of Neil Kinnaird now. So now his sights are going to be set on Jason Pugh and doing all he can for Simon Clowes in this championship. Of course, as we've been saying all weekend, this is a team class, so any rider that's representing that team will be scoring points for Simon Clowes. And the number 1-3 of Tony Campana in this one is down on the timing screens as Simon Clowes, as he is scoring points for Simon, and he will be racking up the points for Simon in this one as Simon is out with injury. He looks to the outside of Jason Pugh. Jason Pugh going real defensive. His only vision at the moment is to make sure he can keep these guys behind him in this race. You can see he's going real defensive into every corner, but Tony Campana tries to go round the outside, going down into the far end of the circuit. Can't quite make that move stick. There's not a lot of room on the exit of there, so he's going to have to try and find his way up the inside of Jason Pugh and surprise him somewhat.
Yeah, this is brilliant. I love seeing these Moto Team bikes out on circuit together, allowing them the opportunity of fighting, not having to worry about any of the pit bikes coming past and having to give way to any of the leaders. They can just go out there with hammer and tong and really go for it. And at the moment it's Jason Pugh leading from the 133 of Dave Campana for Simon Clowes Racing. Neil Kinnaird and Ian Jackson last time round, who did the fastest lap of the race of 57.441, as the top four all lapped within about 0.3 of a second of each other. And you can see they've already broken away from Fraser Kinnaird in 5th position, 3.9 seconds back to Fraser. So Fraser unable to stay with this lead battle, and it's going to go right down to the wire. Of course, we've got 7.5 laps left to go in this one. You can see Dave Campana having a quick glance over his shoulder to see where Neil Kinnaird was, and it's currently down in 3rd position, and Neil trying to find every opportunity to get back up into 2nd place. And Neil's had a really good run so far this weekend, a couple of really good results and podiums, and looking well at the moment, still in the hunt for the race win.
Yeah, absolutely so. He's in this battle. It's a 4-rider battle for this race win. Of course, Ian Jackson currently in 4th, won your race later on, but Jason Pugh doing such a good job. He's making himself as wide as possible on that baby blue number 8, trying to cover his lines completely. He's wide where he needs to be wide, he's tight where he needs to be tight and defensive, and doing a brilliant job to make sure that Tony Campana can't find a way past. You saw Tony Campana make his way through on Neil Kinnaird, but it's not quite as easy as making his way through on Jason Pugh. But Neil Kinnaird there with the fastest lap of the race on that last lap. But all these riders all setting identical lap times on that last lap, all in the 57.1s. Ian Jackson slightly off the place with a 57.4, but still right on the back of these guys. So it's still a 4-way battle for the lead in this race, with 7 laps to go in this race 3 for the Moto team race. So expect to see some elbow bashing. This is the calm before the storm. All these riders just eyeing each other up, just seeing whether each are weak, as Neil Kinnaird gets a brilliant drive out of the penultimate corner, down into the final corner through Paddock Bend, makes a move stick on the number 133 of Tony Campana. Brilliant move there, just took advantage of a slow drive there from the number 133.
Yep, and up into 2nd position goes Neil Kinnaird, and he will be now putting his eyes firmly set on Jason Pugh, but Tony Campana will not want to give up that 2nd position. Ian Jackson, the race winner in race 2, will be looking at coming back and getting himself involved in this. He went fastest last time around, so they're trading fastest lap times with every lap. It was a 56.891, and he kind of all three, both Jason Pugh, Neil Kinnaird and Ian Jackson, matching each other's times though to within 0.03 of a second. So they are really evenly matched. So it's all going to be on who is bravest under braking into some of these corners. We know that Jason Pugh was very vociferous in the way that he was defending earlier on and trying to get past some of the other riders, but he's doing a good job at the moment holding on to the lead of this one. He's just letting the trio behind battle out between the 3 of them, and they are all part of round 6 of the FAB-Racing Mini Bike British Championship Moto Team class here from Cumbria Kart Circuit in the Lake District in Cumbria, and we have had a brilliant weekend's racing. Just a few more races left to go after this one. The MKGP 70s are next up, and then finally we finish with the Mini F1 sidecars, and then we head off to Red Lodge in 2 weeks' time over in Suffolk. However, for the time being, it's Jason Pugh in the Moto Team class that will be focusing very much on what's going on ahead of him, hoping to take the championship lead going into Red Lodge as you come up to a little bit of lap traffic. Now, will this hamper any of the riders around? You can see it's going to hold up Dave Campana a little bit there. So Dave Campana getting caught behind the traffic, and that's cost him around about half a second. So if you're Neil Kinnaird, that worked out quite nicely.
Yeah, a couple of bike lengths between Kinnaird and Campana now. So absolutely not what Campana wanted in this race, but he's going to have to get his head down with 4 laps to go in this race and try and close back down to Neil Kinnaird and Jason Pugh, who are at the front of this race, and of course just defending from Ian Jackson at the moment.
And yeah, so it's a great race so far, as we've got a slow bike there into the hairpin for one of the lap bikes, so possibly Reece Todd Brown, who was a little bit slow into the hairpin at McRae's at turn 4, and but it is Jason Pugh still leading away from Neil Kinnaird. Simon Clowes Racing, the 133, still holding on to a podium finish, and as you said, we were told by Simon that Tony Campana would be getting quicker and quicker and quicker, and he's holding on to a podium position, which is going to allow Simon some very very valuable points in the championship to stay with Jason Pugh, who's going to be looking at leaving this weekend with the championship lead, but it will be the slimmest of championship leads. Just a few points between Simon Clowes and Jason Pugh in that championship as they come on to start. 3 laps left to go in this one, going into the opening chicane to open up the lap. And you've got to think, if you're Jason Pugh, he's got a bit of a gap now between himself and Neil Kinnaird in second, so it's just playing it safe, not pushing too hard, but getting that lap time out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's done a brilliant job to be defending all race long. He's made himself as wide as possible on that baby blue number 8 machine. Just a little bit of a mistake there through what does happen. Has a quick look behind to see how far behind Neil Kinnaird is, but Neil Kinnaird now just coming into the clutches of the number 133 of Tony Campana, and he's just trying to do all he can to get onto the back wheel of Neil Kinnaird with 3 laps to go in this race. They're coming on to complete this lap here, so it's going to be 2 laps to go after this one, going down into the final corner, and the number 133 is doing all he can to get onto the back wheel of Kinnaird now, and he's pretty much done it, as Jason Pugh now has a commanding lead with 2 laps to go in this race. Has Jason Pugh done enough to consolidate those 25 points, 25 crucial points for this Moto Team Championship? No Will Howarth here this weekend, so he's going to lose that championship lead if he hasn't already, and Jason Pugh just extending that lead out the front now, but back marker in between Kinnaird and Tony Campana is just allowing Neil Kinnaird to just break away a little bit now, so that definitely hindered the number 133.
Yeah, it really did, and that was Phil Joyce that just got himself in between the 133 and Neil Kinnaird as well, so Tony Campana unable to do anything about that, just had to stick behind it and then get the move done when the position was available. But Jason Pugh managed to get through unscathed and currently leads this one by 1.336 of a second as he cuts through some more lap traffic there as he comes around the final quarter to start the final lap of this one, as he comes up, takes the final lap board, and Jason Pugh coming up onto the final lap. Just a few more corners, 7 more corners after this opening chicane to take a win on the season and take, as you say, 25 crucial championship points away from Simon Clowes, who's got Tony Campana riding that bike for him, currently in 3rd position. Unfortunately, the gap between the top 4 has opened up a little bit, so it starved us as what was a brilliant race too. However, Jason Pugh has ridden a really commanding race since getting to the front in this one, and is going to look pretty well nailed on for victory if he can hold on to the final few corners of this one. And the number 8 will be coming up to Sunny Bend, coming into the final 2 corners on the weekend for the Moto Team class as he uses all of the runoff area, coming into the final bend. The long right-hander sweeping into Paddock Bend and taking the checkered flag is Jason Pugh. Has a look behind, there's no one there. However, Neil Kinnaird and Simon Clowes Racing, Tony Campana in 3rd position. Ian Jackson, unable to replicate his race 2 form, comes home in 4th, with Fraser Kinnaird and Vince Bailey looking to roll into position. You see thumbs up from everyone as they knew that was a good race, all battling between the 3 of them. Unfortunately, Ian Jackson unable to get himself involved in that one, but a brilliant race if you're Jason Pugh.
Yeah, absolutely, a brilliant result for him. 25 crucial points for his championship in that championship battle between him and Simon Clowes. And the number 8 of Jason Pugh does take the 3rd win of the race 3 here for the Moto Team. Neil Kinnaird picking up 2nd with Simon Clowes in 3rd. Ian Jackson in 4th, your race 2 winner. Alistair Kinnaird down in 5th with Vince Paley in 6th. Mark Pollitt down in 7th ahead of Alice Kinnaird in 8th. Gus Milling in 9th and Ian Todd down in 10th place.
Next up, we have the MKGP 70s. This is the premier class for FAB-Racing, the final step on the ladder before these riders head off to British Talent Cup and the BSB paddock. Of course, we see the likes of Johnny Garness, who will be lining up in 2nd position, has already made his debut this season after turning 12 years old back at Clay Pigeon. He'll be looking at improving on a very good weekend he had at Silverstone just a weekend ago, as we are getting ready for Dan Cam as he gets ready for a grid walk. And Of course, you can listen to Dan Marr in the morning on motorsport.radio every Sunday morning, and we can see the MKGP 70s will be finding their way out on circuit. Lucas Brown, unfortunately, has had to watch Johnny Garnett disappear off into the distance, it seems, this weekend. So Johnny is back. He's had a couple of races where he's kind of had to stick behind Lucas and very much role reverse this time.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lucas starting from pole position, but Johnny Garnett has just always found a way to get through on Lucas Brown and just pull away. But in that last one with Lucas Brown running wide earlier on, there was a gap that pretty much stayed consistent throughout the race. So I think if Lucas Brown can get onto the back wheel of Johnny Garnett, he will be able to stick with him and just needs to upset his rhythm as the race goes on. But you can see there the two in the championship on the front row. Lucas Brown, the number 29, giving us a wave on pole position, just next to a determined looking Johnny Garnett on the red bike in second place on this grid. On the second row of the grid, it's Alfie Davidson in third spot ahead of Harrison McKay, the number 61, in fourth. Mason Foster in fifth ahead of Josh Bannister there in sixth. Ben Jolliffe there on the number 125 in seventh, just ahead of the multicolour bike of Clayton Edmonds in eighth. Number 15 is living up on ninth of the grid ahead of Jacob Stevenson, and it's Ted Wilkinson rounding out your grid there, who's just next to Greg Marshall on that final row of the grid. Looking behind all these riders as they go on to start their warm-up lap for this final race of the weekend for the MKGP 70s. It's been 2 wins from 2 for Johnny Garnett so far, but will Lucas Brown be able to snatch that victory away from Johnny Garnett in this one? It's just 20 points in it at the top of the championship, so this championship is going to go right down to the wire at Clandau at the final round of the season. But these guys currently focused on their final race of the weekend here up at Rowrah. And who's it going to be, Lucas Brown or Johnny Garnett?
Yep, get in touch with us. Drop into the comments if you're watching live on Facebook or on YouTube. Let us know who's going to win this battle between Lucas Brown or Johnny Garnett, or will we see a dark horse, the likes of Harrison McKay, the likes of Mason Foster, who can get involved in this battle? Alfie Davidson has looked very strong so far this weekend as well. Seems to have the measure of the rest of the field. They will be all eyeing up a win to finish off the weekend here. The third race of the weekend for the MKGP 70s, and it will be Lucas Brown versus Johnny Garnett off the line. The 57 of Johnny Garnett, the 29 of Lucas Brown. And well, I can't wait for this one. This is always brilliant fun. We know that Johnny and Lucas are very much in tune. They are very close in pace, and they are very much the two to watch out for in the future. They will be making their way through to, I'm sure, the BSB paddock very, very shortly as they look to the lights. It's Garnett versus Brown. Who can get the launch off the line? Red lights on. It's a slight creep there, but it's lights out and down towards turn one. It's a great start there behind from Harrison McKay, who gets up into third position. However, Garnett off the line, leads from Lucas Brown. You could see everyone just a little bit tentative off the line, and however, up the inside goes Lucas Brown. Does he get the run on exit? Johnny Garnett back into the first position. These two are going to trade position, Josh, I'm sure of it. Up the inside goes Alfie Davidson on Harrison McKay into turn 5. Ardell's hairpin, and Alfie Davidson back up into third position. However, Harrison McKay gets the cutback back up into a podium position. However, Alfie and Harrison, who are good mates off the track, let's see what they can do on it.
Lucas now just needs to make sure that Johnny Garnett can't get into rhythm, needs to upset his rhythm early on into this race, just needs to snap straight back at the number 57 of Johnny Garnett. But it looks as if Garnett already has a little bit of advantage at the front of this race, with the battle for third as well brewing really nicely between Alfie Davidson. Mason Foster's in there, Harrison McKay is in that battle as well. So these riders we've seen battling all weekend long continue to do battle here in race 3 for the MKGP 70s. Mason Foster, a rider who was running in the GP 50s earlier on in this season as well, was running in both classes but opted to just focus on the MKGP 70 at the moment. But number 8 of Alfie Davidson has a 3-second jump start penalty. We saw him creeping off of the line from that camera shot, and he's got 3-second penalty. So Alfie Davidson in third place in this race has a 3-second penalty. We're going to see how that's going to affect him later on. At the moment, that's going to put him behind Harrison McKay and Mason Foster, but we'll have to see how that pans out as the race goes on. So currently third place on track, but with that 3-second time penalty, will be finishing a little bit further down the field. But Lucas Brown now 2.9 seconds he has over Alfie Davidson. There's a little bit of a gap to Johnny Garnett, who's leading this race. Not coming up on our timing screens at the the moment is Johnny Garnett, but we can assure you he is leading this race. The number 57, the red bike, setting the fastest lap of the race on that last lap. He's got a little bit of an advantage over Lucas Brown now, but this battle here for third place between Alfie Davidson, Harrison McKay and Mason Foster. But of course, Alfie Davidson with that 3-second time penalty will definitely at the moment put him behind McKay and Foster.
Yeah, and these three who all shared a tent on Friday and were sitting down chatting with each other, now they're on circuit battling with each other, but it is Alfie Davidson that is currently sitting on that 3-second time penalty, which will drop him behind Harrison McKay and Mason Foster. Mason Foster will be eyeing up a return to the podium. He didn't manage to pick one up back at Ella Park, so he will desperately be hoping for another one in this MKGP 70 class. Of course, their last race of the weekend before their long journey home for the majority of them, especially the likes of Johnny Garnett and Lucas Brown as they head back to Devon and West Sussex respectively. But Alfie Davidson will still be holding off Harrison McKay, and of course Harrison will have a quick glance behind and see a very fast Mason Foster. And as you said, Mason has elected to focus on this MKGP 70 class for the rest of the season, and he's doing a really good job in it in his debut in this class.
Oh, absolutely. So he's moved up from the AC40 Pro category and did extremely well over there, and now competing in this MKGP 70 championship and doing all he can to learn this season and pick up some results as well. We saw him pick up a win in back in Lydd, which was his first time in the wet on that bike and his first race weekend on the bike, and already picking up 25 points. So really impressive from Mason Foster, and is consistently in the top 5, in the top 3 as well. He's had a few podiums and a consistent top 5 finisher is the number 88 of Mason Foster, and all the meanwhile learning life on that MKGP 70 machine and preparing himself for that jump up to British Talent Cup, a jump that we've seen Johnny Garnett already do over at the British Talent Cup and pick up a brilliant 7th place last time out at Silverstone. So he's going to be one to keep an eye on in the future, but his focus at the moment is on this race 3 for the MKGP 70s, and Harrison McKay currently defending this 4th spot in the race from Mason Foster, but with that time penalty that Alfie Davidson has ahead, they will be finishing ahead if it stays like this. But Alfie Davidson doing all he can to pull away from these guys, so if he can get a 3-second advantage on these guys, he will finish in 3rd place.
As Holly Harris takes a look to the inside of Jacob Stevenson as they come into the final corner, Holly up into 8th position ahead of Jacob. Really nice move there from Holly, just caught Jacob unaware and he had to straighten up the bike, and Holly made the advantage count and up into 8th place. So much better there from the 15 bike of Holly Harris up past the 67 of Jacob Stevenson. Unfortunately, we've lost Clayton Edmonds from this, and it's really been a weekend to forget for Clayton on this MKGP 70 bike. Had unfortunately lost a foot pedal in race 2, and in this one it's been unfortunately only managed to make the first few laps before retiring. However, up at the front it is Johnny Garnett leading by 2.3 seconds over Lucas, and this is what we've seen so far as they keep battling. As however whoever keep battling is Harrison McKay and Mason Foster, going to go side by side into the chicane as Harrison just about holds onto position. Mason looking very racy behind on that 88 bike, and he's looking incredibly strong. He's been getting stronger and stronger as the weekend has gone on. Is Mason Foster. He's going to try and get a run down in towards the turn 5 hairpin at Ardales, but not able to get a run. But he can use the back straight. Can he get into the toe of that 61? He tries to go alongside, but once again Harrison just holding on to the inside line. But Mason is going to keep pushing. You're going to think he's got 8 laps left to go, so plenty of time to get an overtake done.
Absolutely so, and a little do these guys know that this is actually a battle for a podium spot with that penalty for Alfie Davidson. But it just seems to me that Mason Foster just has a little bit of pace in hand as he makes a move on Harrison McKay. Harrison McKay gets the cut back. They're going to be side by side into turn 1. Will he be able to make that move stick again? He has a look, but Mason Foster closes the door into turn 1. Now, I'll be interested to see what Mason Foster can do, because it just seemed to me as if Mason Foster just had a little bit of pace in the bag. So it'll be interesting for me to see if he can go and catch the likes of the number 8 of Alfie Davidson and get himself 3rd place in this race. But of course, with that penalty that Alfie Davidson has, he's looking to be finishing behind these guys after that 3-second penalty anyway. But Mason Foster won't know that, so his focus is going to be on trying to catch Alfie Davidson. And like I thought, he is pulling away from Harrison McKay and catching Alfie Davidson further ahead. So this battle for 3rd place brewing up really nicely. Harrison McKay doing all he can to stick onto the back of him, but the number 2 of Josh Bannister is out of this race. So such an unlucky year for the WAM liveried bike there, and the number 2 of Josh Bannister just not having it his own way this year.
No, really not, but one rider that is managing to have it his way this weekend is Johnny Garness on the 57, who's leading this one away. Lucas Brown just seemingly not able to stay with Johnny this weekend. He's gapped him now to 3.1 seconds. The pair of them are head and shoulders ahead of everyone else. They're 8 or 11 seconds up the road to Alfie Davidson, who is under threat from losing a third podium on the weekend to Mason Foster. Mason is equally already trying to pass Alfie himself, so he might not even need to worry about using that penalty for Alfie Davidson, because Mason Foster is really starting to put the pressure on Alfie Davidson for third place. Johnny Garness comes around to start, 5 laps left to go in this one. And the British Talent Cup rider, who finished in 7th position at Silverstone, is looking at picking up a 3rd win on the weekend and knocking that championship down to 15 points between himself and Lucas Brown. So Lucas Brown unable to really recover any points and build a gap over Johnny Garness, who will now be going and looking, if all things go to plan, for Johnny Garness at 15 points, leading us into the next round of the season at Red Lodge over at Suffolk. And Mason Foster, who's still eyeing up a podium in 3rd position, he picked up 3 second place finishes back at round 4 at Wilton Mill. He will be looking at making a return to the podium. However, Lucas Brown out there on his own at the moment, just unfortunately for him. I'm sure we saw in the second race that he was very frustrated, just picking the wrong lines. We saw him especially through this chicane. He hit the curbs. You could see he was visibly frustrated, and he was nodding, like banging his head, banging the handlebars. And what's it like when you just lose touch with that rider ahead, knowing that lead, that championship lead, is coming down and down?
Well, he's definitely feeling the pressure. It's definitely going to be a demoralising thing for Lucas Brown to see Johnny Garness just pulling away from him. Of course, still faster than anyone else in this race. These two in a league of their own, but Johnny Garness just managing to put down the pace. It's a little bit too quick for Lucas Brown this weekend. We saw how fast Lucas was back at Ella Park, and he can feel Johnny breathing down his neck in the championship. If it stays like this, Johnny Garness will stretch that bring that championship lead down to 15 points. But the number 88 of Mason Foster is now right on the rear wheel of the number 8 of Alfie Davidson. So Mason Foster looking good to pick up 3rd place in this championship. Of course, he doesn't need to pass Alfie Davidson because of that 3-second penalty that Alfie has. No, he doesn't, but that is not in a racer's mindset, as we all know. They will all want to get past each other, and of course, mates off circuit, however, very much on circuit, they are racers and will want every single position. You want to get one over on anyone on track, let alone your mates. But Mason Foster will be closing in on Alfie Davidson. Of course, Alfie on the 8-back does have that 3-second time penalty, so at the moment under threat of not only losing 3rd position, however 4th as well, because you can see Harrison McKay is still staying just in touch with this battle for 3rd. However, Mason Foster will not be giving up. He will not know that 3-second penalty has been applied to Alfie Davidson, and he will be trying to get past as much as he can as we go on to 2 laps left to go. Penultimate lap of the weekend for the MKGP 70s. It's Johnny Garness leading from Lucas Brown. Alfie Davidson, with that penalty, leads from Mason Foster and Harrison McKay. Ben Jolliffe back in a lonely 6th position. Holly Harris has made her way up into 7th, past Jacob Stevenson and Greg Marshall. Ted Wilkinson back in 10th. Unfortunately, we did lose Josh Bannister from the race a few laps previously, and Clayton Edmonds at the start. However, very much the weekend to remember. If you're Johnny Garness, this is exactly the weekend he needed. He needed to recover some points in his championship. He needed to start taking some more points off of Lucas. The problem for Johnny is that Lucas has managed to hold on to 2nd position throughout all 3 races as he comes on to start his final lap of the weekend here in the MKGP 70s, the premier class of FAB-Racing. They're on the road to MotoGP. Of course, they're thinking about heading to the BSB paddock and the British Talent Cup very, very shortly. If you're not already there, the likes of the 57, Johnny Garness is, and he's now coming up to turn 5 for the final time. And Johnny Garness has just got around about 5 more corners left to go after this one if he is to take home a 3rd win on the weekend here from Rowrah. It's round 6 of the FAB-Racing Mini Bike British Championships, and it's Johnny Garness, British Talent Cup rider, who's coming up to Sunny Bend for the final time to come around the final corner and pick up a well-needed and well-deserved win here. Arm up already, celebrating before he even got to the final corner. Keep it on 2 wheels, kicks the leg out. Very
very happy indeed. He takes the checkered flag ahead of Lucas Brown, who's going to come across the line very shortly in second position. A big gap between himself and Johnny. So Johnny, just even at late stages of that one, just pushing almost 9 seconds, as Alfie Davidson does come across the line in third, ahead of Mason Foster, but with that 3-second time penalty, will drop down. However, will just about hold on to fourth position. Harrison McKay just fell out of range in the late stages of that one, as Johnny Gareth just pulls to the side of the circuit there. As you can,
I think he's going to be giving them a lift back to pit lane there. So Josh Bannister's going to be hopping onto the back of the number 57. Johnny Gareth is giving him a lift back to pit lane, which is brilliant. See also Lucas Brown congratulating Johnny Gareth there. So brilliant to see all these riders helping each other out.
Yeah, really. So the camaraderie between all of the riders out there to make sure that everyone gets back safely, and it saves Josh a little bit of a walk back to the paddock. He can get there and get a free ride, and yeah, Johnny, he can do it all. He can do it with one person, or he can do it with two people, and the 57, very well deserved triple race winner this weekend. I'm sure if you're Lucas Brown, you're going to think that it's a little bit of a weekend, that he's lost ground in this championship. He's lost the points to Johnny Gareth. However, he does go into Red Lodge with a 15-point advantage, so the chance is still there. He just needs to be picking up those results. However, it is Johnny Gareth that is your race winner, ahead of Lucas Brown in second. Alfie Davidson unfortunately drops down to fourth position, with Mason Foster promoted up to the podium with Alfie Davidson's 3-second time penalty applied. Harrison McKay in fifth position, with Ben Jolliffe in sixth. Holly Harris in seventh, with Jacob Stevenson moving up to eighth, with Greg Marshall 10th, and Ted Wilkinson rounding out Josh Bannister, who caught a lift home from Johnny Gareth and Clayton Edmonds earlier on in that one. But brilliant weekend if you're Johnny Gareth.
Absolutely so, taking 3 wins from 3 and clawing down that championship lead. It'll just be 15 points that Gareth has over Lucas Brown. That Brown has over Johnny Gareth. So not the best weekend for Lucas Brown, but he's done what he's had to do. His damage limitation, picked up second in all the races, and made sure he's scoring as many points as he could this weekend. So not exactly what Brown would have wanted, but definitely damage limitation for him.
Yeah, and so one more, there we go, there's a word in this summer. One more race on the weekend. It's the Mini F1 sidecars, and they will be out for the final race of the weekend. And we've already seen the likes of Mick Williams and Michael Elms have been out on circuit, and they've dominated exactly what we've seen so far from the pair of them throughout the rest of the opening rounds of the season. For them, of course, triple race win back at Wilson Mill, already 2, and you've got to think they're going to make it 3.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're a bit of a dominant force out the front of that sidecar race. So they're consistently quicker than everyone else, and by quite a way as well. They're about 3 seconds a lap faster than anyone else on circuit. So you can expect to see Mick Williams and Michael Elms just pulling away at the front of this sidecar race that we're going to be bringing to you very shortly. And it's brilliant to see the sidecars back. We saw them back at Wilton Mill, and it brings something different to the weekend and to FAB-Racing. Yeah, it very much does. But thank you very much for joining us for this afternoon session. We've got one more race left to go, so don't leave us just yet. We've got some sidecar action out on circuit very, very shortly. But if you are watching at home, we hope you've had a lovely Sunday afternoon, and make sure you drop into the comments. Let us know who you are supporting, where you're watching from, and what you've enjoyed throughout this weekend. And make sure if you haven't already, make sure you like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff you do on the socials. And of course, myself, Gareth Hall, and Trystan Finocciaro will be bringing you the rest of the season. Red Lodge in 2 weeks' time, and then off to South Wales at Llandau in just about a month's time. But thank you very much if you've joined us for the entirety of this season. Hopefully we've entertained you with some of the rubbish that we've come out with when we've been trying to bumble our way through the commentary. But yeah, it's been a brilliant season so far, isn't it? Absolutely so, in every class as well, and every class is proved to be providing us with such great racing. Loads of championships going down to the wire. It could have been possible the championships could have been won this weekend, but with such close racing all throughout all of these categories, we will have to wait until Red Lodge to see any champions. And I'm sure the likes of Bernie Hook will be looking up to wrap up a championship at the next round at Red Lodge, and that's going to be really exciting as well. So make sure you tune in and join us for that weekend as well. But one more race to go here at Rowrah, and it's going to be the Mini F1 sidecars who go out ready to do action. The final race of the day here at Rowrah, and the final race of the weekend. It's been Mick Williams and Michael Elms that have absolutely annihilated the field so far this weekend. And what can we expect from this one?
I expect exactly the same, Trystan. I expect them to steal the show very much, and that 26 bike has really been in a top-notch form, and as they all filter into position onto the grid. And it will be Mick Williams from Mark Parker in second, with Adrian and Claire Ems in third, John Hosker back in fourth on the 127, with Vince Bailey in fifth. And I believe we do have Mick and Danny Lee back in sixth position as well. So yeah, they have joined us in the yellow bike, so the 44 should be on the grid. There you go, there's the 44 that has filtered into position. So Danny Lee and Mick Lee there in position as they look to the lights and get ready for the final race of the weekend here from FAB-Racing. And it's a brilliant start from your pole sitter, the 26 of Mick Williams and Michael Elms, as they get up into the lead. Behind the 44 gets the jump on Claire, and Adrian Ems up into second position. So great start there for the 44.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see John Hosker making up some positions there right at the front, going around the outside of an outfit there, and the number 76 there of Adrian Ems, just almost in the clutches there of John Hosker. But it is Mick Williams and Michael Elms that are flying out the front of this one, just as we expected already, with a lead over these guys. And the number 76 there outfit, you can see the black outfit with the orange bit at the front there. That is Adrian and Claire Ems flying their way around this circuit. But Mick Lee is now with a transponder on, which we didn't see earlier on today, trying to do everything he can to stay with the number 26 of Mick Williams and Michael Elms.
Yeah, and doing a good job in fact this time, because he's closing right up, so it's not maybe the race start that we expected, because in the opening two races we've seen the 26 disappear off into the middle distance, but the 44 are very much staying with them so far over the opening lap. So the 44 of Mick and Danny Lee doing a good job at the moment, trying to stay with your runaway race winners in the opening two rounds and opening race of the season back at Wilton Mill. But Trystan, for everyone listening at home, if you didn't manage to join us, as you can see drifting around the hairpin there at turn 5 goes the leaders, but if you didn't manage to catch the morning session, we were telling you all about the fact that you managed to get a hitch a ride on one of these bikes yesterday, courtesy of John Hosker. And you'll be able to find all of that on the motorsport.radio social media channels throughout the week. But how was your ride on this as a passenger on one of these bikes?
A lot more difficult than I'd expected. I think whenever everyone gets to look back at it, definitely it was a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit stiff on the back of that sidecar, and it was a completely different experience. Pretty much just jumped on it and was thrown straight into the deep end, but it was such a fun experience. It's really different to what I'm used to, but it was such good fun. And John Hosker, who let me crazily let me have a go on his sidecar, was really good to me. A couple of hairy moments around there, but that was probably down to the fact that I wasn't the best passenger in the world.
Well, he's now having to fend off Mark Parker, who started slowly from second on the grid. Mark Parker now finds himself back in fifth position. As wide goes John Hosker, and he's going to lose the position there to Mark Parker, so going slightly deep into turn 4, and unfortunately just losing that place there. Now back into fourth position goes Mark Parker, needing to recover some time. Danny Lee and Mick Lee back up in second position. They're still 1.1 seconds behind Mick Williams, the race leader, and in fact almost 9/10 of a second behind, so lost a little bit of time on that last lap. He sees Mick Williams maybe just turning up an extra gear. Now he's been involved, he's had a little bit of a battle, he just wants to get on with it now.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we saw this back at Wilton Mill, Mick Williams and Michael Elms just flew away at the front in every single race, in race 1 and race 2, and then in race 2 Mick and Danny Lee just managed to find a little bit of an extra gear and almost stay with Mick Williams, but of course Mick Williams still took that race win. So it seems like it just takes the whole weekend for Mick Lee to get going and get back on and get onto some pace that's at least slightly resembles the pace of Mick Williams, but still Mick Williams with a 2.3 second lead at the front, so just proving that he has what it takes to absolutely demolish this field. But the closest we've seen so far this weekend from Mick and Danny Lee.
But it's a shorter race in the sidecars. They only have 3 laps left to go in this one, so not too long for Mick Williams, who came across the line last time and did a 59 flat, so comfortably a second faster than Mick Lee and Danny Lee in second position. So So now they're starting to build that lead out to 2.3 seconds as you hear the leading bike roaring away as they really do make some noise, these sidecars, as they head down towards the chicane on the penultimate lap of the weekend here from the FAB-Racing Mini Bike British Championship, 6th round from Cumbria Kart Circuit in Rowrah. We've got 2 more rounds after this, off to Red Lodge in Suffolk and East Anglia in 2 weeks' time, and then Candale in South Wales in a month's time, and then that will be our season done and dusted. It has been a compact, it's been fast, it's been frenetic, as you can see. Sweeping and sliding through turn 5 goes the 26 biker there, Mick Williams. He puts a bit of flair on this final few laps. 2 laps left to go. We're about 1.5 left to go. Mick Williams really putting the power down, and Michael Elms, passenger on that bike, doing a brilliant job so far of leaning into every corner. You can see they hit all of their marks and making sure Michael Elms really gets down. Now, I said it in race 2, it's almost like he's hanging off by his toenails when he's leaning off to the left hand side of the bike, and then when he's on the right hand side he's got his entire body over there. He really makes sure all 3 wheels are planted as they take the final lap board and they get ready to finish off their race and our weekend here. As we've got passenger off, and that's Danny Lee off the side. That's the passenger for the second place bike, and you can see Danny off on a circuit, just lost his balance, and real frustrating there for Mick Lee. And you can see already lost his passenger. Danny looking up to the sky. He knew that a podium was on there, but that's going to really hurt Mick, because we know how crucial it is to have a passenger. Now, will he be able to make it around? Of course, he's going to have to go much slower. He won't be able to put the power down half as much as he was with the passenger on. Yeah, I'm not sure he's going to be able to make it to the end of this race. It's incredibly important having your passenger on there, as we've found out in the past. But it's going to be Mick Lee and Michael Elms that take 3 wins from 3 as they go into the final corner for the final time. There you can see Mick Lee at the side of the circuit, but it's Mick Williams that takes 3 wins from 3 here at Rowrah. The final race of the weekend gave us a show here for the Mini F1 sidecars, and it's going to be Adrian Ems that's going to come round to take that second place, quite a bit of a way behind, but a second place there for Adrian Ems. And what a victory for Mick Williams, such a dominant force in this Mini F1 sidecars, has won every race of the 2020 season so far for the Mini F1 sidecars. Of course, they have only had 2 rounds, one at Wilton Mill and one here this weekend at Rowrah. But what a brilliant end to the weekend here at FAB-Racing. And there is then Mick Lee, who's lost his passenger there on that bright yellow outfit. A really unfortunate end to that weekend. You can see how frustrated Danny was with that incident there, but they made it all the way to the final lap, but then couldn't quite make that stick right until the end. But what an end to the weekend. Yeah, and it shows you that drama can happen right until the final lap here at FAB-Racing. Just the slightest mistakes for Danny Lee there, just losing his balance as he tried to transfer his body weight going in towards the opening chicane for the final lap of the Mini F1 sidecars, and just lost his balance, and then effectively lost his passenger ride on that bike. And unfortunately for them, that was them out of the race with just a few corners left. So frustration for the yellow 44. They will be back, I'm sure, next time we see the Mini F1 sidecars out on circuits, and they make their way back to the grid very slowly, and Danny possibly just gingerly getting back on the bike, and Mick looking over it and saying, "Where did you go?" But what a wrap up to the weekend. What a finish to that one. The sidecars doing a brilliant job to finish us off. But yeah, Trystan, let us know highlights of the weekend. What have you thought? Well, we've seen some brilliant races all throughout the field this weekend, with Ethan Sparks taking 3 wins from 3 in the Mini GP50 category, leading 2 championships this year, the AC40 Pro Championship and the MKGP50. Ronnie Harris couldn't quite get anything on him this weekend, and he's been a standout rider for me this weekend. He's just been absolutely brilliant in both categories that he was in, picking up multiple wins this weekend. And the MKGP70s, that title
battle just keeps getting hotter and hotter, doesn't it, with that battle between Lucas Brown and Johnny Gunnas hotting up really nicely. Now only 15 points in between them, and the Moto team class has given us more action than ever this weekend. We got to fully focus on them, and what brilliant racing we saw from them. Equally in the pit bike 140s as well, we had Taylor Lawrence giving us plenty of competitive action, and every single category this weekend hasn't failed to disappoint.
No, we've had thrills, we've had spills, we've had it all here at Rowrah, and thank you very much for joining us for the entirety of this weekend. Of course, you can watch it all back live on FAB-Racing's YouTube or Facebook pages, and of course edited highlights will be uploaded to the Facebook page throughout the week. So what's coming up next? Well, we have Red Lodge coming very shortly. In just 2 short weeks' time, we'll be heading back over to East Anglia, and another circuit is usually quite a favourite of the majority of the riders, and it's a circuit that offers, once again, like we've seen throughout the majority of this season, a completely new task. It's almost like every circuit we've been to nothing has been the same. They've all had their own slight differences that has allowed us to really test out these riders' ability.
Absolutely. So that's the brilliant thing about this FAB-Racing British Motorbike calendar is the fact that every round, every track brings us something completely different. Like this weekend at Rowrah is something we haven't seen before, with a lot of uphill, downhill, off camber corners, and it's been brilliant to see. Very different to Wilton Mill, that was very flat, very corner straight, and the Clay Pigeon we had earlier in the season that was very small, a lot of corners. So every circuit has brought us something completely different, and we're looking forward to seeing what Red Lodge and Clandau can bring us later in the season, and how these championships are going to pan out as this season goes on, as we come in to the closing stages of the season in this FAB-Racing Mini British Championship. Loads of action we've had so far this year, and loads of action still yet to come.
Yep, and of course Trystan will be heading off to the BSP paddock next weekend for his race at Alton Park in the Superstock 600 race, so good luck to you for that one.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we will see good things from him, as we're going to get him to dye his hair pink in the next few weeks as well. So in 2 weeks' time at Red Lodge, you might see a completely different commentator standing next to me. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. Of course, a huge thank you to the marshals, the medics, to the race directing, race control team, to the production team that have put everything on. Of course, our wonderful cameramen have stood out there in the cold and the rain throughout this weekend, and very much a big thank you to my co-commentator Trystan Finocciaro. My name is Gareth Hall. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. We hope you've had a lovely Sunday afternoon. Make sure you check all of the streams back and all the broadcasts back on motorsport.radio and all their subsequent social media channels. Like, share, subscribe to all that good stuff you do on the socials. We love to hear from you, so get in touch with us. But thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Red Lodge.
The official BSB Partner Series. This is FAB-Racing.
Yeah.